The story begins on a sunny day. The boy looks ahead and sees something that makes him smile widely. A girl with a sweet smile led him to a small settlement and welcomed him to their village. A week ago, on the outskirts of the royal capital, Alfred Raint, a veteran mage with almost 30 years of experience and an S-class mage, secluded himself and was simply resting at home. Suddenly, someone knocked on Al's door and said they were coming in. The boy turned around and recognized Lucas's voice. By his door stood a girl with two ponytails. She asked if Alfred was still doing nothing, and turned out to be Luca, a swordswoman and healer, an S-class adventurer. Luca said that Cruz and Urena had already managed to defeat the monsters. Alfred added that the guys hadn't changed at all and were still just as energetic. Luca laughed and asked what Al was talking about. She said he sounded like an old man. That man asked if he was really that old. Suddenly, Luca asked how Al's knee was. The boy rolled up his pant leg and said it hurt, but there was nothing to be done about it. The girl said that the boy was a liar and that at the party he was too active, and Alfred thought she was too perceptive, as befits a healer. He thought it was too little compensation. For the young team of heroes to which Al belonged, the victory over the Demon King was the end of a long and difficult journey. Alfred distracted the king while the heroes finished him off. When the king was almost down, he dealt Alfred a powerful blow. Alfred was shot in the knee, and they immediately became heroes. The boy received recognition and medals from the royal family and the Adventurers Guild. He was awarded the first S rank in 200 years. Alfred could not express his gratitude in words. Lucas said that the boy's knee would never heal throughout his life, and even healing magic would not help. The boy lowered his head and said he did not expect otherwise due to the Demon King's curse. Luca touched the boy's knee, and he gasped. The girl turned away and told him not to strain himself too much. Alfred wondered if she had come just to laugh at him. The boy took the medicine that Luca had placed on the table. He was surprised that she went to such trouble to bring him this medicine. He sighed and laughed, thinking that this was very typical of Luca. He fell onto the bed. Alfred had been a traveler for many years and was sure he deserved this rest. Lying on the bed, he thought that his knee hurt. Suddenly, a man burst into the room and told Alfred that he wanted to ask the boy something. Alfred instantly stood up and became alert, deciding that it might be Lord Marshal. The boy loudly asked what had happened, and the man said he wanted Alfred to create and lead a magical night order. He said that although the Demon King had been defeated, there were still many monsters at large. He wanted to entrust this to Alfred because of his achievements and experience in every sense. The boy awkwardly thought that this was a great honor. He admitted to himself that in his condition it would be difficult to fight often. He lowered his head, said he was grateful, and fell silent. Lord Marshal, after a short pause, understood, said that it was unfortunate, and added that he would like Alfred to teach magicians at the royal court. The boy had quite a bad feeling about this. Eventually, he was persuaded, and he came to the party. Someone there recognized him as Lord Rint himself. Alfred was surprised to see the great guild master before him. The man smiled and said he had intended to visit Alfred but couldn't. The boy asked what difference it made. The guild master admitted that he planned to create a new adventurers guild on the former lands of the Demon King. He wanted Alfred to become the full-fledged guild leader, and smiling, suggested discussing all the details thoroughly. For most of the evening, many people approached him and said something. Alfred thought how bad this was. At the end of the evening, Alfred returned home. As soon as he entered the house, he fell onto the bed. By that time, his knee was hurting badly. He rolled on the floor thinking that he would not be allowed to rest here. He did not know that the S rank would become such a problem. He had promised a lot to the king and the country, but this was already too much, and his recovery was more important than these matters. He lay on the floor trying to figure out how to rest. He thought about it for a long time and did not even notice when dawn came. The next morning, the boy sat on the bed preparing, took his backpack, and left the house. Alfred was going to leave the royal capital. After a night of reflection, he realized that even a vacation would not stop the fuss around him, so he decided that everything would be fine if he just took a task from the guild. It selects tasks based on 3 criteria. First, the task should seem easy. Second, it should be from a village as far from the capital as possible. Third, it should take a long time. When Alfred found a suitable task form, he approached the registry and reported it, and the girl smiled, looked at the form, and surprised, said that this was exactly what he wanted to accept. It was an F-rank task intended for appropriate adventurers. It stated that they were looking for guards for a village. They had problems with boars and wolves that constantly attacked. The travelers were rewarded with food and shelter. Alfred said that this was exactly what he needed. The girl turned away and said that early in the morning, she would be there alone and maybe she should consult with the management. Alfred said that everything was fine and it was urgent. The girl had to agree, and this pleased the boy. The reward is small, but he doesn't care. Even doing nothing, he will benefit because now he has a rank, and he thought he would enjoy a simple rural life. A week passed, and Alfred reached the destination. He got off the transport and thought that he would have to walk the rest of the way on foot. It was hard on his knee, but if he walked slowly, he would endure. The boy was happy. The weather was wonderful for a walk. After 3 hours of walking through the forest, Alfred realized that there were only trees around, and suddenly he heard loud sounds. Alfred immediately understood that the sounds of an animal and a person were heard, and went in that direction because it sounded bad. Suddenly he heard the girl loudly shouting that she would not give up so easily. Observing this from the side, the man noticed that the girl had incredibly beautiful pointed ears, and she was not inferior to the wolf. She was an elf. The boy thought she was brave, but her knees were trembling. Suddenly, the wolf attacking the elf smelled something. The monster immediately turned to Alfred and barked loudly. The boy decided that it was interested in him. He stepped forward and said he could handle the monster. Alfred believed that such enemies could be dealt with even without magic. The monster quickly lunged at the boy to attack, but Alfred grabbed the wolf by the snout and slammed it to the ground. The wolf got scared and ran away from there. Suddenly, Alfred heard the girl's voice. She thanked the boy for the help. Alfred said that everything was fine. He asked how she was feeling. The girl said she felt good. Suddenly, the elf said that her name was not Tai but Proso. Alfred immediately apologized to the girl. After that, he introduced himself. Millet smiled broadly and thanked El. That man was a little surprised. He was a traveler for many years and was used to words of gratitude that pleased him. Alfred smiled broadly and said he was glad to hear that. Then the boy asked what Milk was doing in such a dangerous place. The girl said that her younger sister had a high fever and was in great pain, and the village had run out of medicine, so she came to gather medicinal herbs. The boy understood her. Millet wanted to say something else, but Alfred interrupted her and said that although it doesn't look like it, he is actually a doctor. The girl said that everyone in the village said it was dangerous there and wolves would appear, but if Millet does not cure his sister, it will be very bad. Alfred asked if that meant the girl was gathering herbs. Millet said it was not so. This year there were many wolves, so she should not come here. There the wolves and monsters have already eaten everything. Alfred asked if that meant it was all in vain. Suddenly the girl said she was sure that if she went deeper into the mountains, she would find something. Alfred, surprised, asked if she would really go there alone. The boy thought it was terrible. Although it was summer, it was already long past noon. Alfred was not so callous as to leave brave Millet alone. But if he helped her, he wouldn't make it in time because the village gates close at sunset. The boy did not want to sleep outdoors at all. However, if they parted ways here, the girl could be eaten, and Alfred's conscience simply would not allow that. Millet was already about to leave when Alfred suddenly called her and asked for permission to help with the study of herbs. The girl was surprised. Alfred smiled and said he was in no hurry and it would be more convenient with an adult. Hearing this, Millet smiled broadly and thanked Alfred. He said that if she knows, then she should just tell him where these herbs grow. Suddenly, Millet grabbed his hands and let go. Alfred told her not to rush so much. He thought that the elf looked happy. The girl said that many plants grow here. But in fact, there was no smell of herbs here. The man asked what he should look for. Millet said to look for green ivy. It looks like a palm. Millet was upset, thinking that even here all the herbs had already been eaten. Alfred asked if there were other places to go. The girl sat on the floor and said that there was a cave 30 minutes from here, but there was one problem. The boy asked what was going on. Mill looked depressed and said the problem was that the Basilisk had recently settled in the cave. Alfred was surprised. Demonic creature Basilisk, monster rank B. Whoever looks at it turns to stone. Its tail and blood are very poisonous. If it is wounded, blood will splash everywhere and this will cause a catastrophe. Alfred thought that a level B group would somehow cope with the monster, and the boy told the upset Millet not to be afraid and added that someone as old as him destroys basilisks perfectly. Millet was very surprised and grabbed the man. She began to scream that it was very dangerous and that this was not an enemy that could be defeated so easily. Alfred said that everything was fine and that he would defeat it. When Alfred approached the cave entrance, he asked if Millet felt the same herbs as he did, and the girl confirmed. The boy took the basket with herbs from Millet's hands and told her to wait for him outside. The girl was confused. Alfred smiled and added that everything was okay, and if something happened, she should scream and he would immediately run to her. The girl looked at him tensely and fell silent. Alfred walked through the dark and deep cave. He noticed that no one had touched the plants there because there were very many of them. While Alfred was gathering herbs, he heard sounds behind him and froze. Behind him appeared the figure of a huge snake, and he realized that it was a basilisk. The monster stood right behind the boy and waited for Alfred to turn around. The basilisk tried to hit the boy with its tail, but Alfred quickly deflected the attack and created a magical circle to protect himself from the monster. While the magical circle protected Alfred from attacks, the boy calmly gathered medicinal herbs and, having collected a few, wondered if that would be enough. He took a small stone from the ground and said that there was nothing personal here. He clenched the stone in his fist and began to accumulate magical power. He said that he was going to enjoy the monster's defeat. The basilisk noticed this and got scared. He tried to attack the boy again, who was already ready to strike, a small stone enchanted with speed magic. Alfred threw the stone at the monster's head. The stone quickly passed through it and left a hole in the basilisk's head, and the boy thought that the monster was too confident because the last time he fought basilisks was a long time ago. Alfred thought that because of his clumsiness, he really did not want to dirty the cave. After all, it is in this cave that the herbs will grow year after year. When the boy went outside, he saw Millet sitting on the ground waiting for him. The girl kept looking around in fear. Suddenly she heard someone calling her, immediately raised her head and saw Alfred calling her over. Mill approached him and asked if he was okay. The man confirmed and handed the girl a basket of herbs. She took it, smiled widely, and thanked Alfred for the help. Alfred then pulled out the basilisk's head, apologized, and said that he needed to pull the body out from there, so he needed her help. Millet could not believe that Alfred really defeated the basilisk. The boy asked in surprise what was so special about it, and the girl replied with amazement that it was amazing. She enthusiastically said that Sova was really strong and also an expert in exterminating basilisks, while the boy looked at the girl in shock as she continued to say how amazing he was. While Mill was talking about how strong Alfred was, the boy covered his face with his hand, thinking that it was very awkward. The girl reached for her cloak and said that if Alfred was going to cut the monster, she could help if needed. She took off her cloak, leaving only a short jacket on the upper part of her body. Alfred was shocked, immediately looked away, and tried to justify himself, thinking that he had not done it intentionally and their glances had simply crossed. Alfred sighed and said that the monster was quite large, then asked what Millet thought about it, and the girl added that it was also incredibly heavy. After this, Alfred took out a dagger and began dealing with the monster's body. Together, they took on the hard work. They started with his tail, tusks, and eyeballs, which could be sold for a high price. His blood can be used as an ingredient for medicine. The skin is also useful, and the meat is edible. Nothing was wasted from the basilisk. Together, they finished the hard work. Alfred said that Mill helped him a lot. The joyful children held hands. It was already getting dark, and Alfred noticed that the sun had begun to set, so they should set up camp near the cave. Mill was a little nervous but agreed to the proposal. Alfred noticed this, worried about the girls, and asked what was going on. Millet tensed and said that everything was fine. Suddenly, a noise came from behind the trees not far from the boys. Hearing this, Millet shouted loudly and grabbed Alfred. When the girl realized what she had done, she blushed deeply, and at that moment the boy looked at her slightly embarrassed. Millet immediately turned away from Alfred and said she was just afraid of the night forest. Hearing this, Millet could not help but smile, told the girl not to be afraid because Millet would protect his lady, asked her not to worry too much. He himself began to doubt, and the girl blushed. By nightfall, the boys successfully set up camp. They held the food over the fire. While Millet silently drank water, Alfred was thinking about something, staring into emptiness. The boy asked if Mill was okay. The girl replied that she had borrowed his coat and that she was fine because it was warm outside. Alfred thought about how the darkness of the night sky was becoming increasingly dense. The boy asked if Millet was hungry. He offered her fried cheese. The girl said she was fine. She thanked Alfred for the offer. When the boy was eating something, Millet began rubbing her eyes. The boy asked if she was falling asleep, and Millet replied that she couldn't sleep because she felt a little strange. Alfred guessed that she was not used to sleeping outside. Suddenly, the girl asked Alfred why he ended up in this place. He did not understand her question. She reminded him how wolves had attacked her. Alfred said he was heading to the village where he had accepted the task. The girl said she understood. After that, silence fell again. The girl asked if everything would be okay with the task because he was late. Alfred said that it seemed there were no time limits on the mission. Millet was happy and asked where he was going, adding that if it was not far, she could accompany him. The boy said that this place was called the village of Merg. He asked if Millet knew about this place, and the girl gladly said that it was her village. Alfred was surprised. He felt better because it seemed that from now on life in the village would become easier. The girl inquired if this meant that Alfred would live in their village for some time. The boy confirmed. After that, they fell silent again. Millet looked at Alfred and quietly laughed. Did the boy notice this? He was sure that being a guard was not so bad. It was a job where he could protect people's smiles. He was going to enjoy this life, letting this carefreeness into his soul. Alfred is an experienced wizard who revived the Demon King, but at the last moment he was struck by the so-called immortal piercing arrow, and fearing for his life, he decided to rest. But the aristocracy of high society could not tolerate him, so he was forced to leave the royal capital. He chose a rest worthy of a village protector. Thanks to Millet, he reached the village without incident. When Alfred entered the village gates, he noticed what a beautiful place it was. Millet thanked him and said she was sure Alfred would get used to it soon. Seeing that Millet had returned, the villagers rejoiced and ran up to the girl, asked how she was. Millet apologized for disturbing them, and the children who approached inquired who the man behind her was. Millet loudly drew everyone's attention and said that this person was Alfred, and she added that he was very strong and kind and had saved her before. While Alfred listened to the girl with surprise, she told him that he helped her gather special herbs and cared for her all night without closing his eyes. The boy began to feel shy. He wanted to stop Millet, but she did not stop and joyfully said that Alfred defeated the Basilisk. The villagers were also very surprised, and everyone began to shout how wonderful Alfred was. Many residents approached the boy and thanked him for what he had done, noting that he was quite a strong young man. Then Millet ran up, waved to Alfred, and said she needed to prepare medicine. A middle-aged man with cat ears approached Alfred and said he had heard a lot about this boy. It was the village elder. Alfred quickly apologized and said he had to introduce himself. He bowed and added that he had taken on the duty of protector of the village merg. He said that his name was Alfred Rint. The peasants fell silent when they heard this. The boy began to get nervous, but the peasants quickly announced that they would hold a celebration in honor of Alfred's arrival. The boy was surprised and did not understand what was happening. The village elder said he would take Alfred to the dwelling prepared for him. The man led Alfred to a half-ruined house. He apologized for the state of the house, but it was the guard's home. Alfred said it was fine and he liked it. When Alfred entered the house, he thought it was really old, but at least it had a roof and even a bed. He asked the village elder to tell him more about his work, and the elder agreed, placing a chair in front of him. He told Alfred to enjoy the sun, while he himself just sat on the chair in front of the gate. The boy was surprised. The old man said that the boy's main task was to prevent enemy attacks from outside, but they had few enemies, so Alfred thought that a guard was probably not needed here. According to the leader, the boy would be useful, helping on the farms during the day, and when the residents decided to go beyond the village limits, he would protect them from both bandits and wolves. The leader said that the chance to take part in a battle was almost zero, and Alfred smiled and said he could help them. The old man got nervous. He said that Alfred looked like a veteran and was probably tired of such tasks. The boy immediately objected and said that was not the case at all. The old man said that the peasants, like him, expected to see a young man, so he was a little surprised. Alfred realized that they just wanted a young boy, and that was why they reacted that way. The old man decided to show Alfred the village. Alfred understood that the peasant's plan was to invite the young man, marry him to one of the marriageable girls, and force him to move permanently, but the young travelers refused to take on such a task. The chief asked why Alfred decided to become a guard. The boy said that he had previously injured his knee. The old man added that in that case Alfred could rest in the local hot springs, as it helps wounds heal. That same night, a party was held in the village elder's house. Everyone drank and had fun until late. When Alfred was already lying in the room trying to fall asleep, loud noises kept him awake. He realized that the wolves were approaching, and Alfred stood up, because it would be bad if the village suffered on his first day. He mustered his courage because he thought the first impression mattered. He had to solve the problem before the peasants decided he was a failure. He left the house and ran out onto the street, where he saw something he did not expect at all. Alfred was surprised to see a beautiful magical wolf in front of him. Alfred, although a veteran, had never before seen such a beautiful wolf. Among the ancient magical beasts, there are those who can use magic. The wolf lunged forward and growled loudly, attacking Alfred with magic. The boy covered his face with his hands. A magical howl rang out. An ordinary adventurer would have frozen. The wolf tried to attack again, but Alfred grabbed its muzzle, pushed it to the ground, and kicked it. Many wolves continued to attack the boy, but he dodged and easily defeated them. He thought they were magical, but their leader was this huge wolf, and only he knew how to use magic. Judging by the number of these wolves, there were about 20 of them. It seemed like there was no end to them. They obeyed their leader. He headed towards the lighter. The boy decided that if he used thunder fire here, he could cause a fire, but he wouldn't manage with water. He decided that he made the best choice. Alpha attacks them with accelerated magical barriers. After the attack, the boy was very surprised that the wolf managed to dodge. In a moment, the wolf was behind Alfred. Alfred said that this was not bad at all. He smiled fiercely and turned around. He began to attack him, finding it funny. He used magic again. With a powerful attack, he struck the monster in the stomach. The wolf couldn't withstand it and was thrown back. He flipped backward with a somersault. Alfred said that he would gladly kill them all, but if they themselves leave the village of Mergo, he would let them go alive. This monster was strong enough to use magic, so it understood human language. Alfred said that he was a wizard, and if he had used all his power from the very beginning, then now all the wolf's followers would be dead. He said that he could exterminate them all, but if he did, there would be more wild beasts and they would start destroying the fields. Therefore, he lets the wolf and its pack go. Moreover, he decided that killing everyone was a waste of time. He just wanted the wolf to listen to him. Suddenly, the monster stood up. Suddenly, Alfred heard the wolf say that it understood everything, and then called the boy very strong. The boy realized that it was telepathy and was surprised that the wolf could do that. The wolf admitted that it was his mistake. Alfred was surprised by such obedience. The wolf was upset that even he could not make Alfred more serious. The boy stopped the wolf and said that he respected its strength and wisdom as a magical creature. He introduced himself as Alfred Rint. The wolf said that it had no name and asked Alfred to give it one. The boy thought for a moment, then said that he wanted to name the wolf Hilgel. The wolf paled. The boy thought that it was not right, after which he suggested a fluffy variant, and the wolf began to lose patience and get angry. He noticed that the animal did not show hostility and decided that he liked it. The wolf said that from now on his name was Femi and swore that as long as he was alpha, they would not attack the village of Merg. He said that he was doing this to apologize for disturbing Alfred's people. The boy said he was glad about this because he thought the peasants were scared and needed something to calm them down, and Femi asked if the boy really wanted the wolf's head as a trophy. Alfred turned pale, then the wolf said he was joking. Suddenly the wolf spat something out. Alfred picked up a sharp object from the ground. Femi said that if the boy showed it to those people, they would understand. Alfred lay in bed thinking that the magical wolf was not bad. His size and strength were impressive, and he was intelligent. In the moonlight, Femi's skin shone beautifully with gold. Moreover, Alfred found it soft. The boy felt something pleasant on himself and thought that it should be like that if he touched the wolf. Suddenly his face became wet. The boy jumped out of bed and wondered what it was. Femi was sitting right in front of him. The boy fell and asked what was happening. The wolf used telepathy again and said that it was rude. The boy got scared, asked if this wolf was the same magical wolf Femi, and the wolf confirmed it. Alfred was surprised that Femi could become small. The wolf proudly wagged his tail and said that it was exactly so and very pleasant. He wanted to explain why he had returned here, but Alfred began to pet Femi. The boy said that he really wanted to touch him because Femi was very soft. The wolf got angry and told the boy not to treat him like a dog. The boy ran his hands over the wolf's body and noticed that he was incredibly thin. The wolf said he had a request. Alfred understood that the wolf meant that in case of any concerns, he could turn to Alfred. He did not expect Femi to approach him that very day, especially considering that the wolf had put a lot of effort into changing form, but a promise is a promise. He asked what Femi had requested. The wolf said it was hard for him to talk about it, but although this place once belonged to magical wolves, now everything had changed. After the death of the previous king of wolves, wild boars began to attack more actively, and the magical wolves had to leave. Alfred understood why the previous generation of Femis called this land home. Femi, who became the king of the magical wolves, sent a group to fight them, but the chief magical boar turned out to be strong, and they could no longer graze on those lands. Alfred understood why Femi was so thin. The wolf fell silent. The boy realized that calling them thin was wrong. The wolf said that because of this they decided to attack the village, but Alfred stopped them. The man said he was just lucky. Wolf said it was a race against time. Femi said he wanted Alfred to share his power with him and others. The man covered his face with his hand and said he didn't care, but he couldn't imagine a magical wolf losing to some wild boar. Femi said they were very strong. Alfred agreed. He thought how cute this wolf was. Femi said that Alfred himself did not feel her presence, which indicates that his ability to sense presence is similar to a plant. The boy was shocked because he did not feel that the pack intended to kill. The boy said that he had no other choice but to agree to the wolf's offer. Femi happily said that he was very proud of Alfred. The man left the room and said that it was already late and that he was going to sleep. He asked the wolf to take him to the boar the next day, and then Femi unexpectedly thanked Alfred, which quite surprised him. The boy turned around and said goodbye to Femi. He thought that this wolf was very understanding. Alfred lay down in bed again, but he felt cramped because Femi lay down with him. The boy thought that it did not matter. He asked why wild boars were so strong. Femi himself did not know. Alfred remembered how everyone was shocked when he showed Femi's tusk. The wolf was not surprised. The boy said that he heard this from the village elder when he showed his tusk. But he doubted whether Femi really considered Alfred his master. The wolf was surprised by such a question. He quietly cuddled. The boy said that Femi was acting like a dog again. He wanted the wolf to just stop doing that. The next morning, Femi licked Alfred's face, trying to wake the boy up. Suddenly, someone asked the boy if he was not sleeping. Alfred greeted Millet, who was standing by his door. The girl wished him good morning. She also said that she brought him breakfast. Alfred thanked her and said that he definitely would not die of hunger. Suddenly, the boy noticed that Femi started to circle around Millet's feet. The girl laughed and said how cute he was, hugged Femi, and said that she was sure her younger sister would be glad to see him. Alfred said that the wolf's name is Fem. The girl asked if he took her with him. The boy replied that it might seem so, but in reality, he is the king of the magical wolves. Millet was very surprised. Alfred then stopped because he thought he had scared the girl. After that, Femi used telepathy and introduced himself. Millie said with surprise that it couldn't be, and the wolf spoke. The girl began to pet them. She said that the wolf was incredible. She continued showering him with compliments. Alfred thought everything was fine because Melee was happy, and after breakfast, at the request of the king of the magical wolves, he told the village elder that he wanted to tame the magical boar. The peasants forced Alfred to try hard because they wanted to eat wild boar meat. They said they would wait for him. When Alfred left the village, he asked Femi where they should go. The wolf led the boy along the path. Suddenly, Femi stopped and began to grow, returning to his usual appearance. Alfred touched the wolf fur and said that Fem is still incredible. The wolf proudly wagged its tail, creating a strong airflow. Alfred said that he had been thinking a lot about it lately, but doubted whether the previous king of the magical wolves was really the one who fought the heroes 3 years ago. Femi said that it was not true, and that the previous king was his son. Alfred rejoiced and said that it meant that Femi was the grandson of the king of magical wolves. He was fascinated, but suddenly felt pain. Femi asked what had happened. Seeing that Alfred was holding his leg, he asked if his knee hurt. Alfred admitted that something had happened during the fight with the Demon King. Hearing this, Femi looked at Alfred in surprise. He said it would be great if Femi did not hesitate. Suddenly, the wolf offered the boy a ride on himself. Vovk awkwardly said that the point was not that he allowed people to ride on his back. He just, as one of those responsible for this application, wanted to do something. Alfred thanked Femi and said that Femi was his savior. He quickly sat on the wolf's back. Femi was surprised. Alfred asked what had happened. Femi smiled a little awkwardly and said that everything was fine. Immediately after that, they ran forward. Alfred noticed that Femi was very fast. Soon they reached the destination, and Alfred asked what kind of place it was, because they found themselves right in front of a terrible wasteland. Alfred said that he didn't think there were wild boars there, but they had seen tracks. Femi said that was for now. He asked if Alfred was ready. Suddenly, the wolf raised its head and growled loudly right into the ground. Alfred covered his ears with his hands and said it was too loud. Femi apologized and said he should have waited a little. Suddenly, Alfred felt someone's strong presence. The next moment, a huge body rose from under the ground. Femi and Alfred watched in surprise as the wasteland began to rise. It turned out to be a magical boar, and it was clearly not in a good mood. Femi was also glad. He said he knew about it and that it was great for both of them. The wolf was lively when he reminded Alfred that earlier he had said Femi had no chance, and the boy asked in surprise why the wolf was so happy. The boy suddenly rushed forward. Alfred has his own rule, not to commit senseless killings. But the creature was huge, and this area turned into a wasteland because it swallowed all living creatures in this territory, even itself. If this continues, sooner or later the forest will simply be destroyed. When Alfred managed to get close enough to the monster suddenly opened its jaws, and a disgusting smell came from there. The boy immediately fell into a stupor and covered his nose and face with his hands, trying not to inhale the smell. He fell to the ground from the strong smell. Fem also covered her nose with her paws. They did not understand what it was. When Alfred found himself on Fem's back, they started running together. The wolf hurriedly explained that the boar was poisonous, so its breath was also poisonous. Alfred covered his nose with his hands and said that Fem should have informed him about this a little earlier. He turned slightly and looked at the monster. He felt bad. Fem loudly said that he knew about it and that it was definitely true. The wolf looked quite happy at that moment, and Alfred noticed this strange behavior again, so he asked Fem why he was so happy. Fem and Alfred circled around the monster, trying to avoid its terrible breath, and the boy confidently believed that such a monster could not be left alive. He created a fairly large magic circle and aimed it at the magical boar. He believed that showing a small part of its true power would be enough for this. When everything was ready for the spell, Alfred shouted loudly and released magical power. A large explosive magic was directed at the monster in a wide wave, and at that moment blood splattered all around, and the monster froze in place. A shocked woman who was watching everything looked at the smoke clouds and asked Alfred if that man had killed the monster. That man stepped back 10 steps and told her not to say anything until it was necessary. After the blow, the boar fell behind Alfred, dead. That man adjusted his clothes and said that killing the monster was very simple, not paying attention to the surroundings. He added that he was very glad he could kill it with one blow. Alfred sighed. He turned around and thoughtfully recalled that earlier the villagers said they were expecting wild boar meat from him, but Alfred would be surprised if this monster was even edible. Fem calmly said that this boar was edible, explaining that even poisonous snake's meat does not contain poison, and Alfred asked in surprise if that was true. Suddenly Alfred noticed that many wolves had appeared around him. He turned around and said in surprise. Femi only replied that it was his pack. When many wolves approached and began eating his body, the boy assumed they came for the meat, and Alfred had long noticed that both Femi and his pack looked very thin. The boy cut a small piece of meat from the dead boar. Then he approached Femi and said they could eat the rest. The wolf asked in surprise if Alfred was serious. The boy agreed with this and wished the pack a good meal. After that, many wolves gratefully howled at Alfred and began eating the meat. The boy loved watching the satisfied wolves eat the tasty meat, so Alfred successfully fulfilled Femi's order, and the boy was very happy with how everything turned out. The villagers were very pleased with the meat. Alfred even offered to share the meat with all the residents. The head of the small village was very surprised to see the huge tusk Alfred gave him. Mill could not stop marveling at how incredible it was. The girl was in a wonderful mood on this beautiful day. The children from the village were sincerely happy and fascinated by Femi. They petted his soft fur and said how fluffy he was. Femi himself really liked it, but tried to keep his dignity and hold his head high. The girl held a small plate and asked if Alfred wanted to have lunch with them. The boy smiled broadly, said it sounded good, and offered to fry some meat. As they walked further, Alfred asked how Millet's younger sister was feeling. The girl replied that everything was fine thanks to Alfred, but Millet was still worried and insisted that her sister sleep for a long time. Mill entered Colette's room and told her sister that they had a guest. Alfred followed the girl inside. He approached the bed where the little girl lay and said he was very glad to meet her. The boy said that he had probably woken the sleeping girl. Colette rubbed her eyes and, half asleep, asked Alfred who he was. Suddenly she jumped up and said that he must be that Mr. Alfred. She asked if she was right. The man was confused. Mill said that she had previously told Colette that she was saved thanks to Alfred's help. Mill smiled and said once again that she was very grateful to Alfred for everything he had done for her and for the village. The girl turned to Colette and told her to stay in bed until the food was ready. The girl agreed. Alfred supported Mill and said that Colette does not want to get sick again. The girl confirmed this. From the kitchen, Mill said she would call them when everything was ready. Suddenly the happy girl saw Femi and said with admiration that this animal was very cute. She began to stroke the soft fur of the wolf. Colette smiled widely and said that Femi was very big and fluffy. Meanwhile, the wolf sat calmly and obediently next to the girl. The girl turned to Alfred and sincerely thanked him for visiting them. Alfred said he was glad to have met the lovely Colette. The girl laughed and agreed with Alfred's words, looked at the boy and asked if she could whisper something in his ear. The boy was a little surprised but came up to her. At that moment Colette kissed the boy on the cheek. The girl laughed and said that it was her thanks to Alfred. The boy blushed and covered his cheek with his hand. He thanked Colette. At that moment, Femi did not take his suspicious gaze off his master. The boy sat on the floor near the girl's bed. Then Colette asked what Alfred thinks about her younger sister, and Alfred was a little confused. He wondered why she was asking this. Colette confidently said that Malaya's sister, as Alfred himself saw, was simply an amazing girl. She said that Malice cooked very deliciously, and the girl was extremely kind and skilled in everything, for example in laundry and similar matters. Colette also said that after their father's death, Malaya became a doctor to take care of her sister. The girl said that there are many boys who want to marry Millet. Alfred said that the girl seems quite popular. Colette confirmed this. Colette's eyes lit up, and she asked if Alfred liked Millet. The boy noted that he had never thought about her that way before, so he did not know what to say. Suddenly Colette said that she was sure that her younger sister liked Alfred. The girl meant that Millet behaved very sweetly when talking to Alfred. The girl smiled and said that this was exactly why she wanted Alfred to marry Mill. Colette said that the boy might not make a decision now, but he should think about it. Colette said that it would be their shared secret, and Alfred agreed. Mill entered the room and said that everything was ready. The little girl curiously asked what they were talking about. In response, Colette said that they were talking about nothing. Colette hugged Millet. The little girl asked if her younger sister knew about what interested her. Colette just laughed. In the evening, all 8 of them sat at the table. Alfred tasted the food and said that it was very delicious. Mill thanked him for the compliment and said that such a dinner was only possible thanks to Alfred. Colette asked if the wild boar was really as big as a bull. Alfred said no, it was much bigger, even bigger than a house. Colette enthusiastically said how amazing Alfred was. That man said that if Colette were there, he would even give her a job as a guard. Millet looked worried. The girl said that the damage from animals had definitely increased, but she had never heard of such a large boar and admitted that it was really frightening. Femi told Millet not to worry because Alfred had already defeated the giant magical boar for them, and they would catch the rest of the monsters so they would no longer harm people. Colette hugged Fem and told her again that he was incredible. Millet said that the girl had not finished eating yet. Millet added that she was sure everything would be fine. After all, Alfred would protect them. She added that Femi would help them too. Hearing this, the man smiled. He confidently said that they could rely on them. Meanwhile, the magical wolves and the magical boar no longer posed a threat to the village. The next day, Alfred was going to go to the hot springs and rest, but the image of that huge wild boar would not leave his mind and made the boy anxious. Alfred yawned loudly, and tears appeared in his eyes. The tired boy sat on a chair and held the village together, while Femi lay nearby and slept. The boy thought that although he had chosen a comfortable job as a guard when there were no threats in the area, he had too much free time. The boy looked at Femi and laughed, then said that even the king of the magical wolves had relaxed. Suddenly Femi opened his eyes and said with displeasure that he actually had not been sleeping. Not to mention the forest, there was a giant magical boar nearby that could shame even the king of the magical wolves. If the boar had come here from another place, people would definitely be talking about it. The boy asked if it could be some kind of magic or curse that makes magical creatures grow. When night came, Alfred and Femi were peacefully sleeping in their house. Suddenly the wolf felt that something was wrong, jumped up and woke the boy, warning that someone was approaching the village. Alfred was surprised and said he felt nothing. Suddenly the boy felt a blow to the head and began to quickly get out of bed. He told Femi that he expected nothing less from the wolf, because the wolf's senses are much sharper than others. Alfred wondered who it was this time. At the company Fem, Alfred went outside. He found it strange, although he had no intention to kill. He did not understand why anyone would walk in such a remote place in the middle of the night. Suddenly the boy heard the sound of heels. He turned around in surprise. A girl stood before the boy, who loudly explained that it was really Alfred. The boy was amazed. He asked the unfamiliar girl who she was. The stranger got angry and said that it was unforgivable for him to forget her. The girl crossed her arms over her chest and said displeased that she was one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon King's army and her name was Vivy. Alfred looked at the proud girl in surprise. He still did not know who she was. Alfred thought that even if what she said was true, he still did not remember her. Alfred told the girl that if she were one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon King's army, the hero team would have to defeat them all, and the girl replied that there were actually 5 kings. Alfred asked distrustfully if it was really true. He knew that something was clearly not adding up. The boy realized that this girl was truly a demon, but quite ordinary. She simply considered herself one of the 4 heavenly kings of the demon army. Alfred looked at the girl with distrust and asked why she ended up in such a wilderness, and Vivy angrily asked why he was looking like that. She said that he was just pretending not to know what he had done. Alfred began to get annoyed because the girl seemed quite angry. The boy scratched his head and asked if he had done something. Vivy got even angrier and repeated his words, after which she said that it was not something simple. With tears in her eyes, the girl said that she had raised and nurtured her boar, and Alfred had simply killed it, and she did not understand how the boy could do such a thing. When Alfred looked at the girl in shock, Vivy said that he should not even dare to say that he had forgotten it. Hearing this, Alfred got angry, pointed at the girl with his finger, and said that it was all her fault. Hearing the accusation, Vivy was surprised. The girl was shocked and said that she should actually be angry. Alfred shouted at her to be quiet because by expanding this hole, she had disrupted the ecosystem and put everyone in danger. The girl sighed deeply, raised her hand with a spell, and said that she did not need to worry about the problems of ordinary people, and declared that now Alfred would disappear from the face of the earth. The boy tensed and raised his hands to protect himself, at that moment noticing that Vivy was casting a spell, and covering his eyes, thought that nothing else could be expected from a demon. He noticed that Vivy had incredible magical power. Alfred also thought that only a novice would recite a long spell right in front of an enemy. The boy rushed straight at Vivy, who stood motionless and was reading the spell. He shouted loudly, and the girl, noticing this, got scared and did not understand what was happening. The next moment, Alfred knocked Vivy to the ground. After that, the girl flew backward. Lying on the ground, she asked why he did that. She was crying and said she was completely sure that Alfred was a sorcerer. The boy replied that removing the spell was the most important thing. The boy hit Vivy and said that she had the audacity to show up, although she caused so much trouble for ordinary people, promised to fix her head, and the girl screamed in fear. Suddenly Alfred stopped. Vivy cried loudly, and her feelings created a fireball. Alfred quickly dodged the attack but was also surprised. The fireball flew behind Alfred and fell right into the boy's hut. Alfred shouted loudly, not understanding what it was. He wanted to extinguish the fire with fire magic. Having gotten rid of the danger, he turned threateningly to Vivy and told her not to think that after this he could let her go so easily. The girl wanted to say it was unintentional, but at that moment Fanny grabbed her by the leg and began shaking the demons from side to side. Alfred noticed that Femi was not restraining himself at all, even despite the girl's crying, and added with surprise that the king of the magic wolves never ceases to amaze him, while Vivy at that time asked why he praised Femi. Femi continued to spin Vivian in all directions, and the girl shouted at the wolf to stop. Calmly, watching this, Alfred asked if the girl realized her mistake. Vivy said loudly that she understood everything. Only after these words did Alfred tell the wolf to stop. Immediately after that, Femi calmly threw the girl to the ground. Vivy began to feel the ground under her feet and thought only that she was very scared. Alfred told the girl to stretch out her hands to him. Vivy obediently followed the boy's order. Immediately after that, Alfred used magic to create handcuffs on the demon's hands, which restricted her actions. The boy covered her eyes, then led her to the barn and threw her to the back of the room. Vivy asked what he intended to do with her after bringing her to the barn. The girl crawled on the floor angrily and shouted that even if he used her body, he should not think that he would get her heart. Alfred silently watched her. Suddenly his gaze fell on a huge hole in the ceiling, formed by a fireball. The man loudly said that everything was visible from here. Vivy misunderstood and asked what he was looking at. She thought he was looking at her in the wrong place. Vivy asked him to stop. The girl said that for one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon King's army, someone like her, humiliation as if she were a second-class human, was unforgivable. But Vivy was not going to give up. She said she would not lose. Femi said that this girl was strange. They silently watched her. Vivy lived in her little world. Alfred sighed deeply, thinking that Vivy was causing him trouble, removed the blindfold from her eyes, and said that he was not going to do anything like that to her, but Vivy replied that he was deceiving her. She told him not to touch her. The boy tried to calm the girl, but she fussed. When Alfred got tired, he sighed and told Vivy to do whatever she wanted, but the roof she set on fire needed to be repaired. The boy thought that the most important thing had to happen now, because he needed to interrogate her harshly to find out the girl's motives. Vivy lay on the floor tied up. The boy looked at her sternly and asked why she had enlarged the magical hole, and the girl replied that she had no reason to tell Alfred about it. She laughed and said that if he knew about her plans, he would definitely be horrified. Alfred just remained silent. Vivy continued with a cruel smile and said that enlarging the magical hole was just simple training. The girl said that ultimately she aims at the dragon, and when it grows up, the magical boars will become wonderful food for it, so this will bring her double profit. Alfred and Femi thought that Vivy was not very smart because she told them everything so simply. One of them considered it a big disappointment because Vivy behaved like a child who cannot control herself. He thought it did not matter, she was probably just a child. In any case, Alfred was a little scared of the girl's plan. If she really can make the dragon bigger, it will be a serious problem. Alfred approached Vivy and asked what she would do after enlarging the monster. He asked if she was going to restore the Demon King's army. Hearing this, doubt appeared in Vivy's voice, and she asked how he found out. Alfred asked what spell Vivy used, because an ordinary spell could not have enlarged her to such a size. He looked away and said that it was indeed an impressive magical boar. He looked through his fingers at Vivy, who sincerely rejoiced at these words. The girl laughed and said that for a lower-level creature, Alfred was quite skillful at this, and the boy thought it was too easy. Vivy quickly drew a magic circle on the ground and showed it to Alfred. He wondered if she really carved it at the bottom of the swamp. The girl proudly replied that she had outdone herself. Alfred thought that the spell was probably well hidden since he noticed it. This girl could turn out to be a stronger sorceress than Alfred expected, although she was a bit annoying. The boy stood up and said that tomorrow they would clean the magic circles. Vivy was impressed. Alfred said that after they finish, the girl will fix the roof. Vivy refused and asked why she should do it. At that moment, Femi growled threateningly at the girl, and she agreed. Alfred said he was glad about it, and then wished her good night. The next morning, the boy told the villagers everything, and they were shocked by what happened at night. Alfred said that everything was fine, and he would soon settle it so that everyone would be safe. The villagers said that the boy caught a dragon with great magical power, and he saved them. They said that if Alfred had not been there, the village would have been destroyed. Everyone thanked him in chorus and called him the savior of their village. Alfred said he did nothing special. Millet said that was not true at all. The boy smiled seeing the girl. At the same time, little Vivy shouted that she was one of the 4 heavenly kings of the army. The children in the village admired the girl and asked who the 4 heavenly kings were. Millet asked if Vivy was really a powerful demon. Alfred said he put a limiter on her, so she would be fine. Millet anxiously asked if the boy was hurt during the fight with that demon. Alfred said she should not worry. Millet smiled and said that, after all, Alfred was a strong and amazing man. Alfred replied that it was not so. Vivy just called himself the king of the sky. Millet smiled and said that even if that was so, it did not change the fact that Alfred protected their village, so she was grateful to him. Alfred also smiled and thanked Millet. The girl blushed. Alfred thought that she was genuinely happy when he thanked her. Together with Vivy and Femi, Alfred set off on his journey. The guild master addressed the boy and asked if Alfred could take Millet along as an observer. The boy agreed without hesitation. Alfred thought that since it was the village elder's order, he probably could not refuse. Millet bowed and said that she might be inexperienced but wanted him to take care of her. Alfred agreed and they moved forward together. He said he did not think it would be dangerous there, but if anything happened, he would protect Millet. Vivy sighed heavily, listening to their conversation. Meanwhile, the villagers wished the boy success. Alfred rode on Femi and Millet sat beside him. The girl said that Femi looked quite cute and then asked what others thought about it. Vivy looked at the wolf and was very frightened because in her eyes Femi was a terrible monster. The girl walked ahead and said how terrible everything was because she felt that Femi wanted to eat her as soon as he got the chance, and she was afraid. Hearing this, Alfred asked what nonsense the girl was talking about. Suddenly, Vivy stopped and said that they had already arrived. Alfred quickly jumped off Femi. Millet covered her nose with her hand and said that it smelled very bad. Alfred agreed. The girl said it was incredible that Alfred and Femi had defeated the magical boar that spat out such a terrible poison. Alfred agreed, still holding his nose. Even Femi whimpered because of the terrible stench. He looked pitifully at Alfred, as if he himself could not hold his nose. Alfred realized there was no choice, reached out, and plugged the wolf's nose. Vivy turned around and asked what they thought about it because the smell was very strong. The girl at the end of the search found a rare poisonous boar and tied it to the magic circles. Alfred listened to her without much enthusiasm. Alfred approached the liquid and said that the swamp was noticeably shrinking. Suddenly Millet called Alfred and drew his attention. She pointed at the huge lobster she noticed in the swamp. Alfred said it looked like a crayfish, though very large. Alfred found it quite strange. He turned around and saw a sparrow that was only slightly smaller than Femi. He asked if it was the work of magic circles. Vivy asked with satisfaction if he finally understood everything and explained that the magical energy from the circles, which had accumulated in the well, began to spread throughout the area. The girl was about to explain her plan, but Alfred suddenly interrupted her and said that if this was the result of her magic, then all the more reason to solve the problem, so he ordered her to kill the monsters quickly. The man threw a bucket at her and told her to take all the dirt out of it. Vivy lifted the bucket and said it was nonsense, and Alfred sternly said that it was Vivy's responsibility because she drew them, so now it was her turn to clean up. The girl got angry and told Alfred that it was disrespect. She couldn't believe he was making her clean the dirt. At that very moment, Femi growled loudly behind Vivy. Vivy replied that she understood. The girl began scooping mud from the swamp, complaining that she had to do it. Miletta, watching this, felt a little sorry for her. Alfred said that Millet is too kind. The girl was surprised by these words. According to Alfred, Vivy is just getting recognition for what she did earlier. If she is careless, she could destroy the village. but at this pace, she will never finish cleaning the dirt. The boy also did not want to bother the girl. He told Vivy that there is another way to do it. Vivy was surprised. Alfred raised his hands and created many magic circles. He said that wizards must use magic. Strong gusts of wind began to appear in the air. Millet tried to hold on to the ground, but at the same time was enchanted by the magic. While Vivy looked confused, Alfred thought to use wind magic to gather all the dirt, and at the same time lift it with gravity magic. In a moment, a real hurricane of swamp mud rose above the boys. Millet watched the magical scene unfolding before her with delight. Although Vivy was equally shocked, Alfred loudly asked what she was doing. He ordered the girl to start removing the magical circles. Vivy quickly agreed. Alfred threatened her that if she tried anything strange, he would reveal all compromising information about her. Vivy said she had already said she would do it. Alfred watched Vivy and noticed that she seemed to obediently remove all the magical circles. After some time, Vivy rose from the ground and said she had handled everything, and Alfred, hearing this, agreed and added that the girl had done a good job. He carefully lowered his hands, and with them the dirt returned to the swamp. Thus they finished their work. Vivy turned and said that only the Demon King could use gravity magic, especially with two different attributes at the same time. She shouted that if he lost control even a little, the spell could suddenly explode. Alfred smiled and said that if these are two elements, then everything is fine, because if needed he can use four at once. Vivy was genuinely shocked when she heard this. She asked if Alfred was laughing at her, and he replied that it seemed like he did not need to. Hearing this, Vivy fell silent. Immediately after that she shouted that even if he was telling the truth, it was extremely difficult, because even demons with great magical power can use them for no more than a minute. Alfred smiled and said that she clearly underestimated him because he could hold out for an hour. Hearing this, Vivy fell silent. Alfred and Melee returned to Femme, after which the boy said they were going back, and Vivy looked at them and thought that she was clearly frightened by some lower creature. At that moment, Joyful Millet was holding a huge crayfish and said that the magic was incredible. Alfred said that Millet, with her help, would be able to do everything. The girl kept saying that the crab was big and looked tasty. In fact, Alfred doubted that it could be eaten at all. Vivy was upset because she was all dirty. Suddenly, Mill had an idea. She said that when they return, they should go to the bathhouse, and then the girl blushed and added that she meant separate bathhouses. Alfred thought that he came to Merge Village partly for the hot springs, so he had no problem accepting Melee's offer. At that time, the girl was still apologizing. After the boy promised Malai and her younger sister, Colette, to have dinner with them and left, the village elder told him about several good baths. After talking with the village elder, Alfred became interested and went to the place he was told about, and when he arrived, he sighed with admiration, enjoying the beauty of the area. The boy, together with Femme, was looking over the fence at the bathhouse, and Alfred said with admiration that it was a whole bathhouse just for them. The village head told him that there are many hot springs on the outskirts of the village, so Alfred can safely use any of them. Alfred and Femme were happy about this, because this permission was all that Alfred could ask for. The boy took off his jacket and told Femme that he would go inside, and the wolf could wait outside, and added that he would wash Femme outside later. The wolf was truly surprised by this. Femme began to beg Alfred with a single glance to take him along. Seeing this, Alfred could not help but react. He hugged Femme and agreed, but added that the wolf should not worry too much and not dirty anything. Femme sternly said that, of course, he would not do anything like that. Sorry, I cannot help with this request, because it describes a naked miner. Femme was about to jump into the bath, but Alfred stopped him and said that the wolf would enter the pool only after he washed himself. Femme stopped and said he knew. At first, Alfred poured soap and water on himself, then similarly poured it on a rather dissatisfied Femme. The boy quickly started washing. He began washing Femme first, and the wolf enjoyed the process. After a short washing, they finally entered the water and were able to relax. Both sighed with relief because the hot water was exactly what they needed. Alfred noticed and said that it seemed to him as if the hot water was seeping into his knee. Femme thought and said that he really did not understand what he was talking about. Alfred looked at Femme and asked if he was right in assuming that dogs do not like bats. Femme immediately replied that he was not a dog, so there was no problem. Alfred said he believed that. Then he submerged a little deeper into the water and took a deep breath, letting go of all thoughts. Alfred sighed, thinking that even in summer these baths were simply incredible. Alfred felt that he was getting hot in the water, stood up, and said he was leaving, and when the water made his head spin, Femme, seeing this, whimpered and asked him to sit in the water a little longer. When Alfred was walking to the exit, he heard a female voice saying that demons do not need swimsuits. The girl replied that this was not true, because with all that dirt she must be very dirty, and the demon said that she was different from them, from the lower beings. At that moment Millet Vidyankelet entered the bathhouse. Vidyankelet was naked. The demon loudly shouted that she did not smell. When the girls went deeper into the bathhouse, Alfred and Femi hid behind a stone. The girls said that it was their first time coming to the bathhouse. Femi looked at his master and asked why the boy was hiding. Alfred quietly replied that he had principles. The girls were passionately discussing something, and Femi silently watched them. Alfred turned away and tried to convince himself that he was not listening to their conversation. Meanwhile, Millet did not tire of telling Vivy that she should wash because this was their chance to finally properly wash their hair, but Vivy covered her ears and said that she simply did not like bathhouses. Little Colette added that she was already washing. She already had foam on her head. Suddenly, Vivy looked suspiciously at Millet and said something that was more important to her. She addressed Millet and said that although the girl was an elf, her form was quite good. Millet was very surprised by the demon's actions. Vivy ran up to Millet and tore the towel off her. Millet screamed loudly and began to cover herself, saying that it needed to be hidden under clothes. Vivy approached Millet from behind and began to touch her. Millet immediately blushed and was very embarrassed, trying to say something to Vivy. Suddenly she said that the truth was about to get angry, but Vivy did not stop at all. Colette told the Heavenly King that it did not matter how strongly she massaged her younger sister, because nothing would be lost from it. At that moment, Alfred covered his face with his hands and looked at the floor. He thought with great difficulty that no matter what happened, under no circumstances should he look. He held the belief that he was a gentleman. Noticing Alfred, Femi said worriedly that his face had turned very red. Alfred blushed and removed his hands from his face. Sweat was pouring from him, and he felt a slight dizziness. His vision became blurry. Suddenly Colette ran to the stone where Femi and Alfred were hiding, and said that the gentleman was here with Femi. Hearing this, Millet immediately covered herself, shocked by what was happening, and Vivy did not stay aside. The girl also covered herself and, getting angry, said that he wants to spy on poor girls in the bathhouse, and suggested that he probably wants to die. Called looked confusedly at what was happening in front of her. All three girls approached Alfred directly. He tried to justify himself and asked them to wait because it was a complete misunderstanding. Vivy clearly did not want to listen to that man, so she threw a bucket at him with all her might and said that he was a disgusting sorcerer. Vivy's strike was so strong that Alfred suddenly fell backward and lost consciousness. The last thing he heard before that was Millet's frightened scream, and from that moment his memory became blurred. The girl tried to call him. After a while, Alfred finally opened his eyes and looked very tired. Right in front of him, he saw Millet's face, who gently smiled as soon as she noticed he had woken up. The boy noticed it, immediately jumped up and tried to sit down, and Vivy, who was sitting nearby, began to complain about how worthless he was and called him a disgusting creature. The boy rubbed his head. He remembered that his head was spinning, and then he lost consciousness. He also remembered that Vivy threw a bucket at him. He sighed deeply and smiled, thinking only that it was unpleasant for him to realize this, but for an S-class wizard, it was quite pathetic. The boy thanked them and said he owed them a favor. Millet smiled and said he owed them nothing, but Vivy still found it strange because she was convinced that the bathhouse had been reserved for them. Alfred said that was not true because the village head also recommended this place to him, and he was 100% sure that the bathhouse was reserved for him. Hearing this, Vivy frowned. Suddenly Colette entered the room riding Femi and asked if the master was feeling better. Millet said that the village head had told them the same thing, only through Colette. The girl asked her sister if it was true. The girl smiled broadly and said she heard about it from the village elder. The man advised the mister to go to the hot springs and said that Colette and the others could go there after the boy. Vivy and Millet claimed that the girl told them something completely different. Earlier, Colette shouted at them that the village elder said they could go to the bathhouse, and she really wanted that, but the girl was confused. Millet blushed and said that there was some misunderstanding, and she was very sorry. Little Colette screamed that she was very sorry. Alfred suddenly noticed that he was dressed. He did not remember changing clothes earlier. Millie grabbed the boy by the shoulders and asked how he was feeling. The girl said that she would bring him water now. Alfred agreed and thanked the girl for her care. Mill smiled broadly and said that these hot springs are filled with the magic of enchanted minerals, so wizards easily get intoxicated here. Alfred remembered this. Colette ran up to Alfred and called him several times. The boy asked what had happened. Colette came closer to the boy's ear and whispered to him that her younger sister Melee had dressed him. The satisfied girl smiled, glancing at Alfred, after which the boy lowered his head even more and said that it seemed he now owed him a lot, and Femi just barked in response. Having finished all the preparations in the bathhouse, Alfred went out together with Femi. A rather strong wind was blowing outside and he noticed it. He covered his face with his palm and thought that they had probably already gone home. Little Colette called Alfred and told him to hurry. They moved forward together quite quickly, the wind blowing their hair and beautiful dresses. Mill turned around and waved to him, then said that whoever comes last will be left without dinner. After these words, Vivy and Colette ran forward as fast as she could. Millet said she still needed to be prepared, so Alfred did not need to hurry too much. The girl smiled broadly. Suddenly, Vivy fell to the ground and said this. Millet said that everything happened because of her excessive haste. Alfred could not contain his joy and laughter. He covered his mouth with his hand and laughed. At that moment, Colette pressed against Malai's legs, hugging her sister, while Vivy watched, and Alfred said that a life dedicated to protecting these beautiful people was not as bad as it had seemed before. Alfred Lint is now an S-rank magician. 5 days have passed since he started working as a guard in the village of Merg. He dealt with the danger from the beasts and thought he could rest, but the real culprit appeared, a demon girl who calls herself one of the 4 heavenly kings of the army of the demon king Vivy. She was going to use powerful magic to enlarge boars and raise dragons to restore the demon king's army, but he completely prevented it. Suddenly the children began shouting that the king of the sky was so cool. Alfred considered her a scoundrel and a bit foolish, but now she was under his care. Alfred wanted to ask the elder person about re-education. He thought it was better to leave her under their care for now. After all, she is not an enemy the village can fight, although it will still have to apologize for it. Alfred says that is a valid point, and he believes that even if she is not an ordinary demon, she is still a demon. If they underestimate her and let her go, it is hard to say what she is capable of. He asks why not hand her over to the Lord, and the man replies that he thought so too, but the Lord hates demons. If they do not do this, she will not avoid execution. Alfred said that he understood everything and realized his cruelty. The man thanks the boy and adds that the village will try to help him, while Alfred nervously smiles and says he plans to use her and make her work for the good of the village. After some time, the young man came to the construction site and shouted to Vivy that at this pace she would not make it to lunch. Suddenly, Vivy hits her finger with a hammer. She screamed that she did not understand why she had to do that, sat on Alfred's porch, and the young man replied that it was because she set his roof on fire. The girl says she has her own work, so she will leave. Alfred asks if the girl has patience. She says she lacks patience, but will help take care of the livestock in the village. Millet always tries to help as much as she can. The young man says the girl seems hardworking. Suddenly, a girl runs up to the young man and says that her younger sister would be a wonderful wife. Alfred agrees and thinks to himself that he wouldn't mind. Helping and taking care of Vivy was simply a duty for her. He was sure that if Millet thought even a little, she would never love someone as old as him. Millet says she thought about it, but if they use Vivy's magic circles, will they be able to get a lot of meat? Alfred says yes, these livestock are just ordinary animals. They are different from magical creatures. Millet asks if the crab was a magical creature. Alfred replies that if you think about it, it is possible. Vivy overhears their conversation and says that everything related to circles is easy for her. Millet replies that she knew that. The young man says that then they will come during the day and try to do it. Millet thanks the young man and says she will wait. Vivy shouted to the boy not to decide everything by himself because she considered him a lower being. The boy replied that, according to that girl, she said she could do everything. Vivy responded that she did not say she would do it. Vivy says that she is one of the 4 heavenly kings of the demon king's army. She is an important being. She should be served. The young man must be a real impudent person to make her do manual labor. The boy looks disdainfully at the girl, approaches and takes her, and Vivy says that it's good and a little walk won't hurt. After some time, the roof was completely repaired. Alfred said there were a few flaws, but she did everything herself. The work turned out very well. Vivy wipes sweat from her forehead and says it's natural. Alfred says that after a short rest they can go to the farm. Vivy says she doesn't want to. After a while, they were met by Miletta, who said she was waiting for them. They were preceded by a cow that made a sound. Millet laughs and says they are ready anytime. Vivy screams because the cow is so big. Alfred adds that in that case Vivy needs to hurry and make circles. Vivy did not understand why she had to do this for some lower creature. She was tired and it was very hard for her. At that moment the girl crossed her arms over her chest. Alfred thought he could make Femme growl at her, but it was not possible. If the girl couldn't, he could do nothing. His task was completed. Vivy said she never said she couldn't. Alfred replied that he thought that with the help of power it would be easier for Vivy to increase the number of livestock, but it's not that simple. Vivy said that was obvious and easy. Alfred turned away and said that for the girl it was too difficult. Vivy loudly replied that for them it was not a problem at all. The boy said it's okay and he doesn't want to force her. Abusing magic is dangerous, especially for inexperienced wizards. The boy smiles mockingly at this. Vivy got angry and told him not to underestimate her. He just has to stand and watch. Millet was afraid of Vivy. She pushed the girl and told her to go to the open pasture. Alfred smiles and thinks that Vivy is very easy to provoke. At that moment, Vivy was thinking about circles that form the basis of magic circles. That is their essence. The girl says that experience is especially important for the simplest actions. Alfred says that Vivy talks a lot. Millet smiles and says she wants to see how his magic works. Alfred smiles, looks at Millet, and agrees. At that moment, Vivy sits on the ground, begins to use magic, and suddenly a magical seal appears on the ground. Then Vivy says that everything is ready. Alfred smiled and said that, as expected, the girl always did wonderfully, and Vivy replied that she made the circles twice as big as before. Millet puts his hand on the boy's shoulder and tells Vivy that she is incredible. Vivy smiles, thanks him for the help, and tells him that she did her best. Suddenly a shout is heard that Millet's break is over. Millet tells Alfred that this is bad because she has to return to work. Alfred asks why they don't help the girl. Yes, Femi, if they really can't just leave. Femi barks in agreement. Millet says that God sent him. Vivy says that it is quite hard, so they shouldn't overexert themselves. Millet said to Fluff and prepare the straw for feeding, feed them until they are full, and give lots of affection. Millet smiles in response and says that the cow is happy. Vivy asks if she is really happy. The girl looks at the very happy cow and also asks if she is really happy, after which Vivy becomes embarrassed. Millet thanked everyone for the work because they really saved him a lot of time. After the bath, Vivy said she was hungry, calling the one who was downstairs. Alfred thought that cooking was too stressful. He says that it's okay and they will eat dried meat. Vivy screams because the boy made her eat dried meat for dinner. She can't believe it. Alfred is embarrassed and asks the girl not to laugh at that. At this moment, Millet enters the room, apologizes for the delay, smiles and says that she brought dinner. Entering the room, Mill says that it is wonderful here. Vivy runs up to her and says that she is quite a skillful lower creature, and then Femi approaches the girl and starts sniffing the food. Vivy giggles and tells the boy to continue eating his jerky. Millet interrupts and says that she has some for Al as well. After some time, Millet puts down the food and distributes a portion to each, wishing them a good meal. In front of the boy is a plate of food. Al says that this is stewed beef from the village of Merg and very tasty. Al thanks the girl for bringing food every day. Millet smiles and says that it is just her hobby. Vivy smiles and happily says that she wants more. In a certain sense, she was generous to Millet. The girl shouted that the king of the sky is really cool. Then Millet asks about Sova, because she has a lot left. The boy agrees and says that he will also take a second portion because he thinks it is very tasty. He has a good job and eats delicious food every day. He has a good time with friends. After eating dinner, the boys wash the dishes. Alfred believes that ordinary life makes him happy. Then the girls leave and say goodbye to the boy until tomorrow. Alfred looks closely and tells Femi that they are going to sleep. Suddenly, Femi slips between Al's legs and lies down in bed. Al thinks that the bed will be covered with fur, but it no longer matters. Suddenly, Vivy calls him and asks where her bed is. Alfred smiles and replies that who knows, maybe it will appear when the girl makes it. Vivy smiles in response and tells the boy that he apparently hadn't thought about that. Then they pay attention to the bed. Vivy's leg twitched a little, and in a moment, Vivy and Alfred try to run to the bed where Femi is already lying. Alfred managed to lie on the bed first and laughed, saying that it was his bed. Vivy was sitting on the floor and shouting at the young man to know his place. In a moment, the girl drives Alfred out of the bed and lies down herself, telling him to go sleep in the barn. The boy does not understand why she is doing this, and then asks if she really wants him to become serious. After some time, the young man suggested to the girl to make a deal, and said he would share the bed and give her a place by the wall. Vivy says there is nothing to be done, warns the boy not to do anything bad. The boy asks what he would think of a person like Vivy, and they wish each other good night. When morning came, Alfred woke up because something was tickling his face. It was Femi's tail. This story also tickled Vivy's nose. Eventually, the agreement was broken. Alfred slept on the edge and Vivy pressed against him. Femi slept on all the pillows. At this time, the seal left by Vivy was activated in the cowshed. At that time, Millet and Vivy tried their best to take care of the cows, and Femi continued to care for Vivy, performing protective duties daily and looking after wild animals. When the boy was sitting on a small folding chair, Mill brought him a new chair. The boy thanked the girl. A farmer passed by and told Alfred that he was doing his job very well. The boy thanked the man. The boy finally had some free time, but sitting here was best for his knee. Suddenly, a shout calling Alfred rang out. The village head ran up to him. The young man asked what happened. The man shouted that the cow had become incredibly large. Alfred said that it was natural because that was exactly why they had placed the magic circles. The man shouted that they should not be made so large. Suddenly, a loud groan was heard. The man and the boy grabbed their heads. They ran there. The boy asked if it was that big. The man told Alfred to just follow him because it was really huge. They were rushing extremely fast and asked the village head to calm down. Suddenly, a young man saw the silhouette of a cow and thought it was bad news. The men shouted to Millet to just leave the cows, come back, and be careful. Alfred shouted to Millet not to do anything stupid. Millet shouted to the boy that the cow suddenly became big. Alfred asked Vivy what it all meant. These circles were not supposed to act like that. Vivy smiled and said that while she had been taking care of the cows for 3 days, she had also improved the magical circles. She laughs and tells what happens when she gets down to business. Alfred asks the girl if she has heard the word restraint. Femme asks what they should do. Alfred says that if Femi is asking about it, she should turn to the village elder, and the man was thinking about something at that moment. The man says that she can probably only be killed. Alfred asks if he is sure, and the man says that they were planning to sell her next month. But if they try to do so, they will have to deliver her to the city alive, and if they make meat out of her, it will spoil on the way, and even dried it will be hard to make due to her size. Alfred says that if that happens and she is killed, he will use magic to preserve her. The chief asks if it is true. Alfred says that the boy is their savior. At that moment, Vivy remembered how she spent time with that cow, cleaned it, made prints with it, or fed it, and got very scared. The boy was about to kill the cow, but at that moment, Vivy called him and asked him to wait, and he said he was very sorry, but they had no choice. Suddenly, the girl appeared between the boy and the cow and told him to stop because Muffy was not guilty of anything. Alfred was very surprised when he heard that Vivy called the cow Muffy. At that moment, Millet shouted that her name was 8. Alfred thought that Vivy seemed to have already chosen a more suitable nickname. She shouted for the young man to look into her magical eyes and say whether he really intended to kill her. Alfred said yes. Vivy was outraged and said that was cruel. She asked if the young man really intended to eat her meat later. Alfred was completely serious when he said that was true. Livy did not understand why the young man said that, since Muffy was a special cow. Alfred approached the girl and said that she was so big that it would be hard for her to eat, and that if she went outside and rolled, it could destroy half the village. That would be extremely sad for both Muffy and the villagers. Millet approached them and told the girl that she was still raised for meat and was planned to be sold soon. She said it was not Vivy's fault. The girl ran to the cow and apologized because she was the one who made her big. Alfred said it was not the girl's fault because he was the one who asked her to do it. Vivy said she wanted the boy to do it painlessly. Then the boy asked her to trust him. He jumped and ended up right above Muffy's head. A young man thinks about piercing her brain with a magical spear. The next moment, Muffy falls lifeless. After some time, the young man quickly allowed the villagers to drain the blood and cut her. He used explosive magic to dig a pit and cleared it for storage, then immediately transformed it into an improvised magical bag with storage magic. Then all the villagers filled it with pieces of meat and buried them with the dug-up earth so that the meat would stay fresh all year round. The villagers ask if it will really last that long. Alfred smiles and tells them not to worry. Everyone admired Alfred. Now they had even more reasons to convince him to stay here. At that moment, the young man thought they were talking about everything. The residents thought they would probably have a celebration tonight. At that moment, Vivy sat by the pile of earth and asked Muffy to rest in peace. No one paid attention to the girl. After some time, everyone was roasting meat and enjoying the celebration. Children and women smiled as they ate the delicious meat. One man told Alfred that these were the best pieces of meat, so he should eat them too, and Alfred said they were really tasty. Then he asked the man for a vegetable dish and juice. The boy took the roasted vegetables and juice to the far corner of the square. He approached Vivy and told the girl that she did well. The girl said she was not going to eat. Alfred said that if she wanted, he would not force her. Suddenly, her stomach growled. Alfred said he brought roasted vegetables, but the girl said she had no appetite. Then a girl ran up to Vivy and said that it was very tasty, but Vivy turned away. The girl added that everyone eats living creatures to live. Her sister told her this. Vivy looked at the plate of meat and told the girl that she was right. Millet tells Vivy that Muffy did not become meat for no reason, and Vivy believes it is her duty to eat everything so that nothing goes to waste. Vivy says that Millet is right and reaches for his plate. She starts eating the meat and says that it is very tasty. Large tears appeared in the girl's eyes. The girl thanked Muffy for the tasty meat. Already at night, Femi was sleeping on the floor, and Alfred and Vivy were lying on the bed. The boy felt that Vivy was cuddling him again and thought that she was doing it again. The boy opened his eyes and turned to the girl, but she was crying in her sleep and calling Muffy. He was very surprised. He wiped Vivy's tears and said that everything would be fine. The boy covered her with a blanket and wished the girl sweet dreams. Vivy smiled in response and took Alfred's hand. The next morning, the girl shouted to Alfred to wake up because they still had to work today. The boy got up and began wiping his eyes. Then he told Vivy that she had woken him up very suddenly. He asked Vivy if she had come to her senses yet. The girl replied that everything was fine. Suddenly Millet came up and said that she had brought them breakfast. Sister Millet asked the Heavenly King if everything was all right with Vivy. Vivy replied embarrassedly that she probably made everyone worry, and Alfred thought that a good dream had such an effect on Vivy. He left the room and smiled, thinking that this was the most important thing. Then they had breakfast, and Vivy said she was full. Then the village elder approached them and told Alfred that he had a request for him. The young man was very surprised that the elder had come. The village head said it was about yesterday's meat. He wanted to go to the city tomorrow to sell it. The young man agreed. Then the man said that recently there were rumors about the appearance of robbers. That is why he would like to ask the young man to accompany him. The young man says that the man always sold meat to merchants who came to the village. The man agrees and says that the merchants will arrive only in a month. There is too much meat, and the boy is probably tired after using magic yesterday. Alfred asks the elder not to worry and to leave it to him. The man thought about the boy and left. The girls began to worry about the boy's condition. Mill told him not to stress. There was plenty of time, and Alfred replied that everything would be fine and thanked the girls for their care. He understands that the elder wants to sell the meat as soon as possible because it is summer now, and autumn will come soon, which is the tax season. The young man runs into the room and, getting dressed, tells Vivy to get ready. She asks why she should do that. Alfred says that the girl specializes in magical circles. The girl says that this is definitely her specialty. Alfred says they just need to make enough magical bags. The girl is embarrassed and says that her dear Alfred is really hopeless. Then Alfred apologizes to Mill and says he won't be able to wash the dishes, to which the girl replies that it's okay. After some time, the young man begins to create magic. First, he will take the hide of that giant cow and, using magic, sew several large bags. He tells Vivy to first increase the volume, and since they are carrying raw meat, he needs to create a circle with a constant state, and since they are traveling by carriage, he also needs to use a circle with a constant mass. Vivy says that creating 3 types at once is quite difficult. She will try to apply them, and if something happens, he must inform her. The young man agrees. After some time, everything was ready. The boy says that Vivy was really skilled in magic circles. She improved his work by using a technique he did not know. The young man says that then they only have to pack the meat and check the equipment. Then Millet calls Vivy and asks why the girls today started calling Alfred her cute L. Vivy does not understand what it is about, and Millet says that earlier Vivy called Alfred differently. The girl replies that there is no special reason. Everyone calls him that, so she decided to try it too. She looks embarrassed and says she definitely has no other specific reasons. Millet was surprised and said she felt like somehow he was deceiving her. Alfred watches them and thinks that Vivy has begun sharing their joys and worries. He believes she has become a true resident of the village of Merg. One morning they set off on an 8-hour journey to the big city to sell the meat. Muffy, Femi, and Albert were the escort. Millet managed the trade, and Vivy and Colette were assistants. Millet asked Alfred how he liked the trip. The young man replied that it was quite good, and at that time Colette was talking about how fluffy Fam was. Alfred asked if the girl wanted to switch places. He could drive the cart a little. The girl said that if she got tired, she would ask the boy for help. Kale Hats proudly said that her sister was such a workaholic. Before departure, the elder told Millet and Alfred that he was counting on them. Alfred thought that despite his youth, Millet was honest and wise. The village head and residents trusted her so much that they entrusted her to represent the village, and maybe she would even be elected the new village head. At that moment, Vivy sighed and diverted Alfred's thoughts. The boy spoke to the girl, but she was quite heavy and her horn was prickly. The girl said that she was quite light, but the boy replied that it was not so, and his legs began to go numb. At that moment, Colette ordered Femi to attack. The girls shouted for Femi not to lick her. Alfred shouted for the girls to stop misbehaving and calm down. Mal said that it was very sweet. After some time, Femi felt something and became very serious. She told Alfred about it, and he asked what had happened. The boy told Femi to cover the back of the cart. She agreed and turned to the end of the cart. Millet asked the boy what had happened. Suddenly an arrow flew towards the girl. She noticed it and was very frightened. But the boy was able to deflect the arrow with his magic. He immediately shouted to Millet to come inside. The bandits ran up to the wagon, and Alfred thought that these were typical bandits. After killing the coachman, they took the cart and horse and blocked the road with logs so that the horse could not just gallop past. Then the young man got out of the carriage and thought that these guys were quite skilled. One of them told Alfred that if he gave up the goods and the horse, he might be spared. The young man said that this was an important cargo for them and refused. The man smiles and says that everyone who says such things soon dies. Then Alfred replies that those who obediently agree also soon die. The man says that this is not true because people are also an important component of profit and can become valuable workers. Vivy, hearing this, thought that it was very rude, and Alfred, sighing, said that he was not going to fall into the hands of people like bandits and would not let them escape. He was going to beat everything out of them and asked everyone to come to him. The man said that he was tired of them, so he ordered his men to kill them. At that moment, the man took a fighting stance. Alfred thought that they were moving too slowly. Apparently, everything is fine. They are just bandits, but he never looks for a fight. In a moment, the boy appears behind the men, chains glowing on their hands, and they fall to the ground because their hands are tied. Then Alfred began to gather the bandits. The man warned the young man not to be so confident because now his people were in that cart. Alfred stood silently when suddenly a scream was heard. It was Fem who attacked the bandits who were trying to climb into the cart. At that moment, the man shouted to his comrades to shoot. Alfred said that it was very sad. After all, arrows never work if you know they are flying at you. At that moment, an arrow was released from the bushes, flying straight at Fem, but the boy, using the wind flow, protected Fem and directed the arrow straight into the bushes. He tied up the archer. Alfred asks Fem if she feels anyone else nearby, and Fem replies that everything is fine and she does not feel anyone. Alfred smiles and says that if so, he is relieved. Then he tells Fem to gather all the bandits. He approaches the carriage and asks if the girls are okay. Vivy asks in surprise if it is already over. Millet says that everything is fine. Alfred is surprised to see an unfinished magic circle on the floor of the carriage and realizes that Vivy wanted to protect everyone from arrows but didn't manage to finish it. Alfred says that during a fight, magic circles don't necessarily have to be very neat. Vivy replies that if there is some defect, the circle might not work. Alfred says that even if it is only 70% complete, it will still work. If it doesn't, the girl can simply draw it again. Quantity is more important than quality. Vivy thinks about this. Alfred laughs and thinks that now she has become serious. He thinks that Vivy draws her circles too carefully. Magic circles drawn by masters in magical academies produce impressive effects, but they are intended for completely different purposes and are not suitable for combat. He says that somehow traveling wizards create magic without spells. At that moment, Femi starts sniffing the boy and says that everything is ready. Alfred sends Femi away and says that she didn't smell him there because it's inconvenient. Femi doesn't understand what the young man is talking about. Then the bandits get into the carriage and are bound by a magical chain. Alfred sits in the driver's seat. Millet says she can drive the carriage. Alfred says that now it is dangerous, so he needs to better protect the girl. Millet says that then Alfred will protect her again. The girl asks if that is really so. The boy confirms this and adds that she should rely on him. The boy says he can take the vehicle to the creditor. Millet is embarrassed and advises the boy to try his best. Colette says that is very sweet. After some time, they reach the city. The young man says that it is right ahead. When the heroes entered the city, he handed the bandits over to the guards. It seems they were wanted, so they received a good reward. Alfred extended his hand and invited the girls to eat deliciously. Millet asks Alfred if they did well. Then Alfred looks back. He thinks about what a big city this is. Vivy says that there seems to be a whole crowd of lower creatures here. At this, Alfred asked the girl to put on a hood. She asked why, and Alfred replied that if his demonic nature was revealed, it would cause problems. Vivy says that she has no choice, so she pulls up her hood. She sighs and thanks the girl. Millet said she could not believe that the feudal lord of this city hated demons. Alfred said it was just in case. He then turned to Femi and asked her to behave like a dog. Femi made a cute grimace. Colette was happy, and Alfred understood that now she was indistinguishable from a dog. Then they approached the merchant. Millet says that then he will go to negotiate the sale. She is more counting on the help of her companions. After some time, the man says that he understands their situation, but he doubts whether the meat is really okay. Millet said that thanks to their farmers and mages the meat is of high quality. The cows in their village have bright red meat, and the fat tastes pleasant. The meat has a lot of marbled tenderloin, and other customers ate it with pleasure. The man examines the meat and says it is of good quality. He has long heard rumors and wants to try it. After all, there are several people here who know how to use preservation magic. He is just worried that because of some mage from a small village, everything might get ruined. The man casts a sidelong glance at Alfred and asks if he has any written guarantees. Alfred shows the man a card and says he has a magician's ID from the hero team. The man was very surprised when he saw this ID. The man asks the boy why he is doing that. Alfred interrupts him and says that his presence here is still a secret. The man replies that he understands and is very sorry. Adventurer cards cannot be forged, so he can be fully trusted. Moreover, he holds an S rank. The man smiles and suggests returning to the negotiations. Millet thanks Alfred for her help. This could have turned into tense negotiations. Alfred says it's all right because ensuring the magical effect belongs to the mage. After some time, the man gives me some money for the meat. The girl thanks him. Vivy at this time says that they emptied such a bag, and the sun began to set shortly after the deal was completed. While the boys were packing the cart, the man who bought meat from them approached and called Alfred to discuss one matter. He asks if he can boast to his son that he met the honorable gentleman. Alfred says he must thank him for the service rendered, but it is a secret. The man then asks the boy to give him an autograph, says that his son is a fan, and Alfred replies that it is no big deal. He is a fan, so he has no choice. The boy asks the name of that man's son. Vidya asks if the boy will make them wait. After some time they leave, and the man thanks them very much, adding that if they need anything else, they can turn to him again. At sunset, the carriage set off for the inn, and when they finished their work shortly, the boy asked why they shouldn't take a walk along Castle Street, and they saw delicious treats. Colette said that they looked delicious. Vivy said that in the village of Merg they could not be found, and that they also looked delicious. Alfred agreed with the girls. Alfred pulls out a pouch with money and asks the merchant to give him 5 such treats. Then he remembers Femi, who also wants one, and tells the merchant that he needs one more. Then the girls started eating these sweets. Vivy was surprised because they were very amazing and incredibly tasty. Alfred doubts whether this food is suitable for a dog or a wolf. Femi is not an ordinary wolf, so Alfred is sure that everything will be fine with her. At that moment, Femi drools. The young man gives her a treat and then tries it himself. He realizes that the sweetness fills his tired body. Then they notice the meat being cut. Femi tells Alfred that she wants to eat it, and the boy asks Femi if there is a limit to her hunger. Since they have reached here, he suggests having some fun. The young man also buys meat for everyone. He says that this steak is so unusual, as if from the sky. Millet says that the food stalls are not bad, and Vivy agrees with her. Alfred thinks that everyone seems satisfied after a delicious lunch. Since they will be staying at Femi's, he chose a somewhat expensive hotel for Millet. The hotel employee leads everyone to their room and wishes them to feel at home. Millet thanks the employee. Alfred asks why they are sharing a room. The young man enters the room and sees 2 beds. He asks me what this is. Alfred asks the girl if she will go to bed with him. Millet replies that yes, the hotel here is expensive. She asks if that could be a problem. Alfred thought that she would figure it out as soon as she could. Vivy enters the room and says that there is nothing wrong with sleeping in the same room. It's not the same as just sharing. The girl takes off her shoes and stockings and says that she usually sleeps in the same bed with Alfred. The young man nervously calls the girl. Then Mill nervously repeated that Alfred and Vivy sleep together. She was very surprised. Alfred considers it unacceptable that an old man shares a room with a girl ready for marriage. Mill asks Alfred if it is true that he and Vivy sleep together. Alfred agrees and says that it is because they sleep in the same bed. Femi also sleeps with them. Millet says that Femi is actually a dog. At that moment, Femi says that she is a she-wolf. Vivy interrupts them and asks if she can sleep in the same bed with Elle as always. Femi can sleep with Millet and Colette. At that moment, Femi began licking Vivy's face. Millet took Vivy with her and said that the girl would sleep together with her. Vivy said that it would be cramped with Colette. Millet replied that even sleeping together would be a bit uncomfortable. Alfred realized that they were arguing about something, and Vivy asked Millet why she was angry and if she was jealous. Millet begins to blush and feel embarrassed. Alfred says that he doesn't mind sleeping on the floor. Millet says that under no circumstances will he allow Alfred to sleep on the floor. Alfred says, all right. He had been an adventurer for many years, so the wooden floor was much better than dirt or stones. Colette interrupts them and says that then she will sleep with the mister, and Millet says that he thinks everything will be fine. Eventually, the boy went to sleep in the same bed with Colette and Femi, and Colette was glad that Femi was so fluffy. The girl wished Alfred good night. The boy covered her with a blanket and also wished good night. At that moment, Vivy asked Millet to move a little. Millet said that Vivy told her only half the truth. Vivy replied that the girl is talking nonsense about an inferior being her equal. While Alfred was sleeping, he heard some rustling. When he woke up, he saw Millet, who had lain down in bed next to him and pressed against him. The young man called the girl, but she did not answer and was sleeping, twitching her ears. The young man thought she got up to go to the toilet, but half asleep she lay down in the wrong bed. He tried to call the girl, but she grabbed his hand. Then the girl called the boy by name and told him about her dream. He put his hand on the face inside. The next morning, Vivy woke up, stretched, and noticed that Melee was gone. She looked at Alfred's bed and called out, asking what Melee was doing. She shouted about that shameless elf who sneaked into the boy's bed in the middle of the night. Millet shouted and said she didn't even notice. Vivy accused Mill of lying. Mill said she wasn't lying, but Vivy didn't believe her and said it was visible on her face. Millet stretched and Vivy said she shouldn't do that. Then Millet took the blanket and lay back in bed. Alfred didn't understand what the girl was doing. Millet told Alfred that she would sleep a little longer. Vivy was very surprised. Then she shook the blanket and said she couldn't take her eyes off her for a second. She led Millet, but the girl replied that she wanted to sleep. Vivy said they had a lot of work today. Colette told Mr. Alfred that she wanted to sleep. Alfred took the girl in his arms and said she would fall asleep on the way. For some reason, they left the hotel and went shopping in the city. Millet held a note from the village elder. Then she asked everyone to give her their purchases. Alfred said that although trading was her job, she was quite suitable for it. Then Colette called Alfred and pointed somewhere to the side. Colette pointed at the stalls, and Alfred understood what the girl was hinting at. He gives the girls money and says he will manage, and they can go further. The girls are happy and hurry to the candy sellers. Then they return happily, holding treats in their hands, and at that moment Millet was pulling a heavy bag of groceries, and Alfred helped the girl put the bag in the cart. Then they packed their things and set off on the road. Millet said that she tried a lot of different delicious food and had a lot of fun this time, and Alfred added that he also had fun. At that moment, Cald and Vivy were looking at the city that was moving away from them. Colette smiled and waved goodbye to the city. The journey home was very quiet. Suddenly the carriage jolted, and Millet was very scared. Alfred laughed and asked the girl if she really felt at home. He hinted that the road was terrible. Millet said it was unavoidable. Then they were approaching the beginning of the village. Millet said it was nice to see the village again. The young man agreed and thought that they were already home. He had traveled all his life and had adventures, so he did not know what it was like to return home. Now he was glad to be home, and although he had lived here for a short time, he was already attached to this village. Alfred said that he would now unload all the purchases. Vivy decided to help and said that this bag was light as a feather thanks to his magic. Suddenly, Alfred heard the joyful voices of the villagers. The man said that the boy was probably tired from the long road. He is sincerely grateful for their contribution to the village. The woman said that thanks to the giant cow, the meat became cheaper, so it was a great support, and Vivy exclaimed that it was her merit. Alfred was embarrassed and said that it was nothing. He was just doing his job as a guard. The elder said that he heard that the young man played a big role in protecting against bandits. At that moment, Millet was telling everyone what Alfred had done earlier. The elder told the boy that he should go rest today. Alfred said that it was a good idea. Alfred imagined himself in the bath and thought that when you returned to the place called the Hot Springs Residence, the first place you would immediately go to would be obvious. Alfred asked the village elder where to find a good bathhouse. The man understood what the young man wanted and agreed. To relieve fatigue after a long journey, they go to the hot springs. Malate said that they all came here together for the first time. Vivy was glad because the only thing she liked here was the many hot baths. Actually, the boy would like to come here more often so that his knee would heal faster. Finally, they reached the hot spring. Alfred told the girls that they could go first. Millet said that the boy should go first. Alfred insisted that the girls go first, but Millet said they were not in a hurry. Vivy was already tired of everything and said she would go first. Then she suddenly saw Fem enter the room. Alfred said he needed to wash them, so he would go first. Mill told the boy not to be shy. Vivy did not understand why he went first. The boy takes off his shirt and says that the hot spring is small but very pleasant. Fem barks happily. Then the young man goes inside and says that here is the thermal spring he so wanted to bathe in, and that the weather is perfect now for an unforgettable bath. The boy realizes that they are standing on the edge of a cliff. It is dangerous for the girls, so he decides to put up a protective barrier just in case. Then he turns to Fem and says he will wash her. After some time, Femisfer was completely soup, and Alfred told her that he had been thinking a lot about it lately. But he asks her to say that her intellect has not deteriorated. Femi sharply replied that it was very rude. The young man smiled awkwardly and said that lately she cannot get rid of some kind of dog aura or something like that. He thought she could only bark. Fem said it was sad, but people simply could not understand her because they had only a weak way to convey thoughts, which was called language. Alfred asks if she really thinks they won't be able to if they don't speak. Fem says that's not the point. There are many other ways of communicating. She calls the guy a newbie. Alfred did not understand why she was so rude. The boy said he understood. Then he added that he would wash off all the bubbles from her fur. Fem replied that this meant the boy was so rude that he did not notice his own stupidity. He asked her to get ready because he was going to pour it on her. Suddenly, he heard an excited scream about the amazing mountain hot spring. Vivy shouted for Colette to calm down because it was dangerous. Colette told Alfred that they had come to him, and Vivy, who was running after the girl, told the young man not to look at her. Alfred said that he did not watch at all. By the way, they knew that he was inside. Vivy said that the guy tried to tell her that she should not have gone in. Vivy replied that she is a high-class demon and will not follow the customs of lower beings. Alfred asked why she did not keep her word. Vivy returned to the entrance and said that it seemed Millet wanted to thank the boy, and at that moment the girl called Alfred, thanked him for everything he had done all this time, smiled gently, and said she would wash his back. The boy turns to Millet and asks what she meant by saying thank you. The girl clenches her fist and tells the boy that she will handle it herself. Then the girl straightened her towel. Alfred jumped up and said it was not necessary because he was satisfied as it was. Mill told the young man not to hold back. The young man looked at Fem with hope, but she, ignoring him, was swimming in the bath. Alfred said that the girl shouldn't worry so much about him, and Millet said that the road was long, so she wants the boy to rest in the hot spring, which is also a thank you for protecting them from bandits. Then the girl put the boy down and asked him to just accept it and sit obediently. Alfred realized that he apparently couldn't refuse her. Suddenly Millet notices that Alfred's back is covered with scars. Alfred says it's because he was an adventurer. The girl says that's very cool. Vivy, who was washing Colette's hair then, said that scars on the back are a shame for the knight. The young man replied that he is not the knight. Then Vivy wiped the sweat from her forehead and said they were done. At that moment, Colette ran to Fem in the bath. They started splashing in the water. Millet told Alfred that she would no longer cover for him. The young man thanked the girl. She approached him from the front and said that now she would wash him from the front. Alfred said he could wash himself from the front. The girl smiled and said he didn't need to hold back. The boy thought that Millet's fingers were cool and very relaxing. He snatched the washcloth from her and told the girl to see that he could wash himself, so everything was fine. At that moment, Vivy called Alfred and told him to wash her back because it was a great honor for him. The boy doesn't understand why he has to do it. Millet approached Vivy and said she would wash her back too. The girl replied that she only came because she wanted Alfred to wash her back. The girl said that maybe next time he would do so. Vivy laughed and thought that he was saved, so he thanked her in his mind. After some time, he sits in the bath and enjoys the warmth of the water. The young man looks up and thinks that the sky is very close. He feels his knee healing. Suddenly, Colette turns to him and asks if the boy's knee still hurts. Alfred agrees but says the pain is bearable. Colette enthusiastically says that if the gentleman's knee hurts, she will give him a massage. Alfred thanked Colette and said he felt much better. The girl smiled. It was bearable, but the knees still hurt. He remembered the old man in the bar, a former traveler, once told the young man that his joints mostly hurt during bad weather. The hero is sure that his pain is also related to this, but he can still lead a normal life, although being an adventurer is difficult. If a fight starts, even he, who sees the weak spots of even the smartest opponents, may turn out to be the most vulnerable in the group. Moreover, no one during the adventure can relax so much. At some point, Colette gets out of the bath and runs away. She shouts that she is too hot, so she leaves, and Mill calls her to wait. Alfred stops them and says he will take care of her, so they can calm down, because Vivian Mill finally has a chance. Mill says that in that case they will take the boy's offer. Millet said that the hot springs are really amazing and very healing. Then she takes Colette and says that when she finishes preparing dinner, she will call them. Alfred thanked the girl. Alfredo was distracted by Femi. From the side, he saw the village elder who was thanking the men for their help. The young man approached the elder and asked if he could talk to him. The village elder agreed. He said he had a request, but it concerned Vivy. The girl was surprised and asked what exactly the elder wanted. The man said it was hard for him to say, but he had discussed it with everyone. They would be very grateful to the girl if she used her magical enlargement on the cow again. Alfred was very surprised. The young man thought she would just grow twice as big and not look like Muffy, but he apologized to the elder and said they could not help with that. He apologized for the inconvenience. Alfred thought that, of course, it was much more convenient to keep large cows, but Vivy was deeply upset because of that incident. The girl turned to Alfred and asked why he refused them. Even if they were going to refuse, she should have done it. The young man apologized to the girl. Vivy returned to the elder and said it was not a problem at all. Alfred was very surprised. The man asked if everything was really okay, and Alfred took the girl by the shoulder, saying she should not force herself. He was an experienced mage, so he could probably pretend to be the girl, although it might be a bit troublesome. Vivy smiled because the guy called himself an experienced mage. The girl asked him who he considered her to be. She was one of the 4 heavenly rulers of the Demon King's army and a brilliant sorceress. Alfred doubted whether it was right for her to call herself a genius, but he was just worried about her. He said that if the girl needed help, she could just tell him. Vivy replied that she did not need help, but Alfred asked if she was sure. Vivy looked embarrassed, then said she could not say that the boy would not be able to help, and thought he could take a look, just in case. Alfred says that in that case he can learn from her. Vivy smiles and says that it is wonderful. The next day the young man went to the farm with Vivy and Femi to start work, and they were met by Millet, who asked Vivy if she was okay. Vivy sat on the grass, called them lower beings, and added that they should not worry about the heavenly sovereign of the Demon King's armies. She begins to draw a magic circle. Alfred, looking at Vivy, thought that she had come to terms with what happened to Muffy, and he felt relieved because he saw her smile. He believes that they have now returned to their usual way of life. Not much time has passed since Alfred voluntarily became the guardian of the village of Merg, and the village's problems are mostly solved, so he is enjoying retirement life. However, the boy realizes that he has too much free time. He sits and does nothing. The boy asks Femi if she wants to play a little. He throws balls and says that if Femi brings them to him, he will reward her. Femi runs after the ball, and Vivy, who is drawing on the ground, tells Femi that she is raising dust. Alfred thought that Femi's dog instincts had awakened because she was quite wild. At that moment, Vivy smiled and said that after all, she is just a wild dog. She asks Alfred to look at these magic circles. These circles are created for offensive magic, but by using this sophisticated concealment technique, the boy can move unnoticed. The boy notices that they are quite cleverly made. Then Femi brings the ball. The boy pats her on the head and says she is good. Vivy is angry because Femi interrupted their conversation. Then Femi deliberately erased the magic circle that Vivy had drawn with her tail. Vivy got angry and they started fighting, and Alfred, who was watching all this, told them to calm down. Fem approached Vivy and began licking her. Vivy said that she would smell like a dog. Alfred, looking at Fem and Vivy, began to laugh. He thought he was happy in his life. Already at night, when everyone was asleep, Fem opened her eyes and began to get up. The young man woke up from her rustling and said that if she needed to go to the toilet, she should hurry and go, but Fem replied that it was not about that. Then the guy noticed that Femi was twitching her ear. He got out of bed and asked Femi what had happened. At that moment, Vivy also got up from the bed, rubbing her eyes, and said that she wanted to sleep. Alfred told Vivy to go to sleep. Femi interrupted him and said that she was called. She asked if the guy heard them. Alfred did not understand what Femi was talking about, and then the she-wolf said that she heard the howling of her brothers. Alfred listened carefully, but said he heard nothing. Femmer replied that it seemed something had happened. She asked the young man for permission to take a short leave. Alfred lit a lamp and asked Femi if he could help her with anything. Leaving the house, Femi said that the young man could escort her home. She raised her eyes to the sky and said that it was her duty as a king, her duty as a woman. Then Femi increased in size. The guy said that it seemed like an eternity since he had seen her. The she-wolf said that she would return soon, more precisely tomorrow at lunch. Alfred asked Femi to inform him if she had any problems. When he first met her, she seemed weak and exhausted. Now Femi looked fearless and strong and began rubbing her nose against the boy. Alfred said he was fine, so she could go. Femi agreed and set off. The boy remained alone and watched as the silhouettes of friends disappeared. He waited until Femi vanished, then extinguished the candle and returned to bed. The young man went to sleep, but could not fall asleep. He thought all the magical wolves had already grown up, so Femi said they could be left alone, but the fact that Femi was called must mean something serious happened. Suddenly Alfred has a dream. Vivy woke him up. The young man jumped up and asked her to stop because he was already awake. Vivy asked what happened. The boy groaned as if he had a nightmare, and Alfred, grabbing his head with his hands, said it seemed to him as if he had a terrible dream. Then Vivy looked around and said that Alfred groaned from a nightmare. She did not expect anything else from a lower-ranked being. Then Vivy asked where the little dog had gone. Alfred replied that something had happened to her pack, so she returned to the forest. Alfred wondered if Vivy would like to hear this, but in the end, she was afraid of Femi. Then the boy got up, dressed, had millet porridge with others for breakfast, and, as usual, went on duty. The young man sat near the village gates, and nearby Vivy was drawing magical circles. Memories of how Femi played ball suddenly returned. The boy sighed. Vivy asked him if he was worried about the dog. Alfred replied that she said she would return for dinner. Vivy inquired if that meant he shouldn't worry. Alfred uncertainly said he thought so. Then Vivy called him and told him to look. Alfred asked what kind of magic circle it was. Vivy replied that the circle would protect the boy from nightmares if he drew it on his forehead. The girl said she invented it herself. Alfred thought that Vivy was probably a little worried about him. After some time, he noticed all the villagers coming and going through the village. He thought that today was nothing unusual either. Then he looked down the forest path, stood up, and closed the shutters on the village gates. Night had already fallen, and the young man began to think. Millet approached the boy and said that his food was ready and he could go to the table. The boy thanked the girl. Then Colette ran up to the boy and asked the gentleman if Femi would not return home. The boy agrees and thinks that she is just busy. He hopes that Fem will not have any problems. He adds that she is a magical wolf king, so he is confident that everything will be fine with her. After some time, the young man finished his portion, thanked Millet, and said that today was also very tasty. Millet thanked the young man for the compliment. Suddenly a bark was heard, and the huge head of Fem entered the room. The she-wolf wagged her tail happily. Colette rushed to Fem and began to hug her. Alfred greeted Fem and said she was a little late home. The she-wolf sighed and said she needed help from the young man. Alfred was surprised, then told Fem to give it to her, asked why she was not resting, but Fem replied that they had little time. Alfred said he would be ready in a moment and suggested Fem drink something for now. Then the young man got dressed and said he was ready to go, and Fem said she would explain while they ran. Vivy stopped them and said she would go too. Fem and Alfred looked back and were surprised. Then the young man helped the girl sit on Fem. He thought Vivy was an exceptional sorceress and could be useful. He suggested going with her, but Fem gave her a ride so she wouldn't have to sit. Vivy told Fem to take her too. Alfred told Fem that he understood there was nothing to be done if she refused, but Vivy could also help. Fem said she would make an exception because it was an extraordinary situation. Vivy thanked Fem. Mill and Colette stayed to wait for them and wanted them to return quickly and safely. They promised to do so and then set off on the road. Then Alfred asked Fem what they should do. Fem said that an enemy had appeared, one she could not handle alone. Vivy smiled and said that it was sad but understandable because Fem is just a dog. Alfred thought that even though Vivy was afraid of her, it did not stop Vivy from teasing Fem. Then he asked Fem which enemy they were dealing with. From Femi it was said that their enemy is a great immortal dragon. Alfred frowned. The dragon is the most powerful creature. If it is large, that is, adult, it is better not to speak of its incredible strength. Moreover, it is also undead and can move even after a mortal wound. Even if they smash the guy's skull in half, he won't stop moving. To defeat him, they will have to cut off all his limbs and burn them to ashes. He knows it will take a long time. In an instant, Vivy shuddered. Alfred asked her if she was all right and if she needed to go with them. Vivy asked what the young man said. She laughs and says that even the great immortal dragon is no match for her. The young man understood that Vivy was very frightened. Then after some time, Fem stopped. The boy asked if this was the place, and Fem answered yes. She led them into the sharp mountains. Suddenly, Vivy felt something, and peering into the forest thicket, saw many shining eyes. Vivy got scared, but Femi said that they are her supporters. A young man asks what their situation is. Femi says she will explain everything. Last night, an immortal dragon suddenly attacked. Her magical wolves tried to fend off the attack but failed, so they asked her for help. But at that moment, many small undead dragons appeared, and everything fell apart, so Femi turned to the young man. Alfred looked around the place, where many small dragon bodies lay. The young man said that although the dragons were small, the very thought that they could have defeated 3 undead dragons impressed him, and he called this pack quite amazing. Femi said she could fight alone, but there would be losses, so she returned the boy. Femi is the magical king of wolves, and she must protect the pack of magical wolves. So she bows her head and asks people for help. Alfred believes he cannot say that Femi will be able to win, but he can say that she will be able to fight. She clearly understands the difference in strength between herself and the enemy. Therefore she, as king, bows her head to protect her herd. Alfred says that Femi is a great king, so she should raise her head. He smiles and asks her to leave it to them because they will help. Vivy tells Femi to just be confident and rely on them. The boy looks at the mountains and says that it is quite quiet here. Fem says that it seems the dragons are heading to the Fem forest. Alfred says that near the Fem forest there is the village of Merg, so it can be said that he is doing his job as a guard. He strokes Femi's fur and asks the pack to leave him a huge dragon, while the wolves must go and fight off as long as they can. Vivy asked what she should do. Alfred said that the girl could do as she knew best because he trusted her completely. Vivy turned and ran, saying she understood. The boy begins to use magic. He summons the Queen of Fire, who rules the fiery heavens. Then he summons the Prince of Demons, who rules in hell. The boy asks them to open the gates of purgatory with the holy key. Then he turns to the sun and the earth and asks them to burn the impurities of this world with their hellish fire of eternal darkness. He announces and says that his name is Alfred Lent. Then a huge wave spreads around, and a huge fire engulfs everything. Vivy does not understand what this enormous power is. Alfred looks at the burning mountains and asks the dragon how he feels about it. He restrained his magic to avoid burning the forest. What happens next is unknown. Then the young man sees a huge dragon and realizes that he could not turn it to ashes, and no one expected anything else from a great dragon. He not only turned into a zombie, but also has a magical barrier around him, and the boy notices small dragons, realizing that they also survived because they hid in the shadow of a great dragon. Alfred Schott says that everyone must give their all and act according to the plan. All the wolves rush into battle. The wolves rushed into battle and began attacking the small dragons with their sharp jaws. Alfred used magical spears. Besides being used in battle, they were also fast. Elancht fired magical spears directly at the dragon, but noticed that the magical barrier reflected them. At that moment, the huge dragon looks directly at the young man. Alfred uses the magical spears again, calling it the second round. At that moment, the dragon turns and breaks the nearest trees. The young man flies to the side, but his magical spears create a crack in the dragon's barrier. Then the boy lands, activates the magical spears again, and calls it the third round, after which the spears fly straight at the dragon. They break through the magical shield and pierce the dragon's body. The monster lets out a terrible scream and begins to tremble in pain. Alfred realizes that, although he is undead, he still feels pain, and it is pitiful, so he must quickly finish him off. At that moment, the wolves were tearing the small dragons apart in a pile, and Alfred realized that those dragons suddenly began running toward the big dragon. The big dragon began to fly away. At the same moment, Vivy activated her magical circle and loudly said that the dragon would not escape. She shouted at him to say hello to her wind blades. At that moment, a large number of wind blades began attacking the dragons flying right above them. The blades of wind severed the dragon's limbs. It fell with great force directly to the ground. Alfred thought that his barrier had disappeared, and he did not have the strength to restore it. He said that this was the end of the dragon, and then he thrust his magical spear. Vivy shouted that it was still moving. The boy ignited a fire on his hand and told the dragon to sleep peacefully. And then he set it on fire to completely destroy it. Fem watched the flames, then she howled as a sign of victory. Her pack picked up the king's howl and also began to howl. Alfred thought about how Fem and the other wolves started howling when they were convinced that the dragon had burned. The young man smiled and wiped the sweat from his face. It was already morning, and they had won this battle. In total, the hero defeated 1 great dragon and 20 small dragons. Vivy interrupted his thoughts and said that it was very sad. These proud dragons turned into undead, more precisely into zombies. Alfred agrees with the girl and says that it is a pitiful sight. He considers the magic of raising the dead an absolute taboo and cannot imagine who could have done it. If this spell hits the target, she will lose control over her body and turn into a living corpse, and her consciousness, as it was in life, will become a puppet without any control. He places his hand on his chest and bows so that the dragons may rest in peace. Then he turns to Vivy and asks her to hurry and take the remains. He is sure that Millet and Colette are already worried. Vivy laughs and says she will help too. They began to cut the dragon. Alfred turned to the girl and asked why she went with him today. Vivy was frightened by this question. She hesitated for a moment, then said that she just thought she could make those wolves owe her. She laughed and said that now they were dead to her, and she did not worry about them at all. The young man laughed. He thought that Vivy looked worried because of Fem II, patted her on the head, and said she did well. Vivy got angry and jokingly started hitting Alfred, and Fem at that moment asked if they were returning to the village. After some time, Millet yawned near Alfred's house, Suddenly, she heard something and ran to the village entrance to look. Millet saw Alfred and Vivy calling the girl. Vivy asked if they had been waiting for them. Mill smiled and greeted them. The guys said they had already reached home. Colette immediately ran to Femme to hug her. Colette was glad to see Femme again, then she hugged Alfred and greeted her. Vivy asked Millet if they had been waiting all the time and not sleeping, because they had big dark circles under their eyes, and Millet laughed and said they noticed them. They had been waiting for them all this time, and they did not know about it. Alfred apologized and said he thought he had disturbed them, but in any case thanked the girls. Alfred smiled and thought that it was good that everything was over and everything was fine. He thought that after all this he should rest a little. In any case, he did not want to strain himself now. After some time, Vivy was drawing a magic circle and asked Alfred what he was doing. He replied that he was just arranging things in the bag, and Femme was lying nearby yawning. They are distracted by Mill, who calls Alfred and says she has brought the elder. The man greets them and asks if they have any requests for him. Alfred thanked the elder for coming. Then he said he wanted to show him something first. Alfred pulled a large dragon head out of the inventory. The man was so surprised that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The man cannot stand it and falls to the ground. He does not understand what is happening. Alfred says that actually last night he received many things from 20 dragons. However, when he takes out the horn, he says that they are quite large and heavy. He called the elder to ask if there was a place to rent for storing all this. They were in his bag, but it is not necessary to always carry so many things with you. The man asks if these are really all the remains of the dragon. Alfred agrees. Then he realizes that some people in the world truly consider dragons divine beings. Perhaps the elder is one of them. He apologized to the man and explained that they were dead and he had no choice. The man said that was not true at all. He smiles and says that Alfred is simply incredible. He cannot believe that the guy killed so many dragons in one night. He says that Alfred is probably the defender of the village merg. The boy laughs and thanks the man for the praise. Millet interrupted them and said that it was true and that the elder was absolutely right. Alfred is simply amazing. Alfred thanked Millet, and Vivy asked what it was all about since she had done most of the work. Alfred believes that few can destroy so many dragons. Only a strong group or several experienced adventurers, like that young man, can manage it. The elder tells him never to overdo it. Usually, an encounter with a dragon means only death. Alfred says he understands and will be more careful. The elder said that regarding the warehouse outside the village, there is a plot of land that the young man can use at his discretion. Alfred says that is simply wonderful, and they will build a warehouse there. After some time, the young man, ready for battle, begins to use magic. He reminds the men that he can use magic to lay the foundation and assemble the structure, but only within certain limits, and says that in case of problems, they can turn to him. Alfred said that it seems wizards really had it much easier dealing with intimate matters. The man carrying the board said that the youth was right. After 3 days of work with the carpenters, they finally completed the construction of the warehouse for Alfred. Alfred said that this interior is impressive. Thanks to Vivy's magic, it is not only sturdy, but also holds more than it seems. Vivy said that it is the hand of a master. It was not some wild battle magic for the young man. For this, she had to draw a perfect, refined magic circle. Vivy asked the boy if it might be worth it for him to become a carpenter. Alfred said that the girls struggled in the same way. Vivy says that here they will keep all their valuable things, so it must be guarded. The boy doubts whether it is really necessary. Vivy agrees. She smiles and winks, saying that she has already planned everything. Alfred asks if it is true. The next day, Vivy was reading a book about magic circles, and Alfred asked the girl why she suddenly became so shy. Vivy smiled and told the boy to just wait and watch how she would do everything with her excellent skill. Then Mill entered the room and called Alfred. The girl asked if the young man would help her gather herbs. Alfred said he agreed, and there were no problems. Millet thanked the young man and said it was time for them to go. At that moment, Femme sharply said that she would also go with them. Alfred then asked Vivy if she would go with them. Vivy refused and said she was preparing something. After some time, the young man asks Millet if she smells an unpleasant odor, and the girl agrees with him, saying he is right. Millet says that the herbs they are looking for have an unpleasant smell. Then she asks the boy to cover his nose with a cloth. Millet says he is leaving. Alfred agrees. Suddenly, Femme starts sniffling, and Alfred asks if she is okay. Femme says that it is so pleasant here and smells very strong. Alfred says that he does not know if human smell differs from wolves, and asks why Femme is smelling him. He asks Femme to stop doing that. Then Millet approaches them and says that she has finished. Alfred says that it was quick. The girl says that she only needed a little. The young man then suggested the girl get ready. Suddenly, someone touched Alfred's cloak and asked to borrow it for a minute. Alfred was surprised because he did not feel anyone's presence. He never thought that someone could come so close to him and he would not notice. He realizes that it is definitely not an ordinary person. Mill turns around and asks the stranger if he needs something. The stranger says that he is a little lost. He asks if Alfred and Millet know where the village of Merg is. The stranger smiles in a way that makes you uneasy. The team of heroes is a squad of 4 adventurers of Class S, who once and for all destroyed the Demon King. Alfred, an experienced mage, is also Luca, a wise warrior, Juliana, a valuable healer, and a genius blessed by the Holy Spirit and called hero cards. Alfred does not understand what he is doing here. He only understands that first he needs to change his voice. He will make him leave, even if he has to use force. It will be very unpleasant if. At that moment, Kurds approaches the young man and asks what happened to him, and Alfred answers in a changed voice that nothing happened. Kurds begins to get nervous and asks if they already know each other. Alfred answers that no, he does not think so. Kurt says that it seems to him as if they have already met. Alfred realizes that the boy suspects him. He does not understand what is wrong with him and what he can do to mislead Kurz. Then he remembers something, turning away, and thinks that it should work. He returns with a beard on his face and says that the boy is looking for the village of Merg. They can show him the way. He is glad that he still has a lush beard for the celebration. Kurz is surprised and embarrassed, asks the boys to take care of him. Alfred thought it was very good that Kurz was so naive. At that moment, Millet did not understand what was happening. She said she thought they should go home. She called Alfred a short form of the name, but he said his name was Rawl. The boy then tells Kurtz that the girl's name is Mill. The girl is surprised. Then Alfred turns to her and asks if it is true. Millet is surprised. Alfred thanks her for understanding, and after a while he apologizes to Kurtz for making him walk while he himself rides his beast, because he only has an injured leg, and the young man says it does not bother him. The girl says her name is Millet, and she is from the village of Merg. Alfred says his name is Rao. The young man thanks them for their kindness. The girl says that her name is Cruz Condoran. He's here to kill the undead dragons that have overrun this area. Millet was surprised, then looked at Alfred, who said it was very scary, and then gestured towards Millet. Kurz says that all this is true. The undead dragons were created by a dark mage who is probably one of the survivors from the Demon Lord's army. Alfred is worried about this mage. Kurz tells him not to worry because they have already taken care of them, built a base in the western cities, and then the young man begins to boast that he found them. The undead dragons were ordered to attack the royal table, so they were asked to destroy the mages. Alfred thinks that it makes sense. If you draw a straight line from the western mountains to the royal capital, it will pass through the Fem Forest and the village of Merg. He knew that all the dragons were already dead, but he did not know how to tell him. Then Kurt said that instead of participating in the main event, he would stay here to protect the village of Merg. Millet said that was encouraging. Alfred does not know how to tell the boy that the village guards have already dealt with those dragons. He cannot say that the threat has already passed. Millet says that Kirst is very good for a boy his age and quite strong. Kirst says that it might be because of his training. They reach the village, and Alfred notices that it is somehow lively here, and suddenly he sees something. A young man shouts what happened to his house. The whole house burned down. Alfred asks a resident what is going on, and he replies that a stranger attacked him, and Vivy tried to protect him. At that moment, Vivy stood up, and in front of her stood a girl. Kurt recognized her as Luca. The girl then began to draw a sword, and Vivy prepared to use magic. Between them stood a young man. Lucas drove him away. Vivy apologized to Alfred and said she tried to stop her, but the girl went crazy. Alfred realized that it could have been Vivy who set the house on fire, or that the girl used some combat magic and blew it up. He is surprised that the hero and the warrior came together. Then he asks Luca for forgiveness and says that this girl might be a demon, but she is not evil. The girl says she does not care whether she is a demon or not. Luca shouted that Vivy is trying to create a giant, undead bull. Vivy said that it is just a skeleton. She said that this is no place for strange people who cannot even distinguish an ordinary skeleton from the undead. However, Lucas shouted that this circle is huge. Alfred thought that now everything made sense. That is why Vivy was in despair. Vivy tried to resurrect Muffy as a skeleton and ordered him to guard the warehouse. Lucat said that she did the right thing by destroying that magic circle because it was a real monster. Vivy got angry and shouted at the girl to take back her words and not dare to call Muffy a monster. Alfred said that, as far as he knew, some countries use dragon and human skeletons in their armies, and he believes that a human skeleton is not much different from an ox skeleton. The souls of the dead are desecrated and turned into skeletons. The souls of skeletons are temporary and bound to the owner. Skeletons can also be partners of humans. Lucas shouted that it could be so. She was interrupted by other residents who said that Vivy was not so bad. They also added that the girl was young but already had a bad character. The city was a terrible place. Then Cruz intervened and asked Luca what was going on. The girl was glad because Cruz unexpectedly moved away from them, and it turned out that she was already here. In any case, it no longer mattered now. Luca points at Vivy and says that she is the fifth of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon King's army, and now she is in such a place, she must be killed. Alfred thought that the situation was serious. When did this fifth of the 4 heavenly kings become known? Luca said that without a doubt, as the last of the heavenly kings, she will resurrect the Demon King's army, and together with the giant bull will capture the imperial capital. Cruz realizes that it is time to clean up this place. Alfred realizes that the situation is simply terrible. Warrior Luca is the brain of the team. He cannot even imagine her strength. He also does not mention the Circle, the heroine chosen by God. They would definitely have lost if a fight had started. Alfred asked them to wait and asked if he could talk to them. At that moment, Vivy pulled away from his hand, covered herself, and stepped forward, and Alfred shouted that this was just madness. Suddenly, all the village children lined up in front of Vivy and covered her with their hands, shouting that she was not bad and asking not to touch her. Vivy was very touched and thanked the children. People were initially surprised, then also moved. She said that if the children decided so, then Lucas must leave Vivy. The girl was very surprised. Cruz put the sword aside and ran to the children. Alfred thought that Cruz was as usual. She was not too kind-hearted but had a weakness for children. At that moment, Cruz suggested the children play together. Because of her carefree behavior, others think she is easy to defeat, but he is sure that Luca will not give up so easily. Then the girl sighed and said that it seemed nothing could be done. Alfred said they were sincerely sorry. Luca said they only asked to be left their bowl of bones. Vivy said she understood. Then Luca nervously smiled, called the wizard with the fake beard, and asked him to come over. The young man smiled awkwardly and greeted her. Then they approached the boys' barn. Alfred turned to the warrior woman and asked what she needed. Suddenly, the girl struck her hand right near the boy's head. She smiles and asks the girl if she really thinks she is that stupid, and the boy apologizes to her. Luca wondered if this could really be called a touching meeting, and Alfred asked the girl when she realized it was him. Luca replied that she knew from the moment Cruz drew the sword, and the boy thought about removing the fake beard. Alfred said that surprisingly, he was not exposed. Luca agreed and said that he was not noticed immediately. His voice was also different. Then the girl changed the subject and asked how the boy's knee was. Alfred replied that everything was fine, and there is a therapeutic onsen in the village of Merg, and Lucas said that she understood, so in that case everything is good. Alfred smiled and asked if the girl was really worried about him. He thanked her. Luca blushed and asked why. He thought that, as always, her reaction gave her away. Alfred asked how things were in the royal capital, but he left without saying a word. Luca asked if the boy was really worried about it now. She asked how many problems, in his opinion, he had caused her. Lucas says that she did not object. The young man agreed to the request of the Adventurers Guild, but she hid it from others. She became the general manager of the royal capital, so it was quite easy for him. The young man said that the girl had advanced in her career, so no one had found him yet, because Luca had been helping him behind the scenes all this time, and he should thank her better. Alfred said that the fact he was in this village looked like she knew everything, but she did not come here to see him. The boy asked if it was because of the dragon. Luca said yes. Alfred said it was also to finish off the surviving army of the Demon King. Then Luca asked the boy to wait a minute because it was confidential information and asked how he found out about it. Alfred said that he asked Cruz. Luca said that she is just stupid and the girl will figure it out later. The girl remembered the undead dragon, not to mention this great undead dragon. Moreover, there are many less powerful ones, and that poses a problem. She says that then she will have to ask for help from the young man. Alfred says that they have already dealt with it. Then he opens the warehouse door. Lucas said that it turned out she came here just like that. The boy says it happened that way. Then the girl says that this is the fang of a lesser dragon. The girl says that there are about 20 of them here, and Alfred replies that this is quite true. Luca asks if the boy had a hard time. Alfred says Vivy and Femme helped him. Luca thinks about one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon King's army. Then Cruz asked Luca through the window how much longer she would be here. Then Cruz went into the warehouse and was very surprised, and Luca added that it seemed the work here was already finished. Alfred then showed his beard and told Cruz that they had not seen each other for a long time. Cruz said in surprise that this old man had been Alfred all along, and Alfred thought he was worried whether she trusted him. Cruz asked what Alfred was doing there because he always moved from place to place, and they talked for a long time. Cruz says that the boy came to the village to treat his knee. Alfred asks Luca why the girl lied to her. Lucas said that if she told her the truth, she would definitely follow her. Cruz said that it is natural because she would go to the ends of the earth for Alfred. Bruce also thought about moving to the village of Merg. She could train with Alfred and become even stronger. The young man said that he was definitely not yet in the process of recovery. Luca interrupted them and said that she had already told Krug that if the hero abandons his cause, many people will be in trouble. Alfred said that if the hero leaves the royal capital, people will worry and rumors will start spreading, but they can calmly come here and rest whenever they want. Peru says that if Alfred decided so, then she should listen to him. The young man replies that then they can stay overnight. But he looks at his house and says that he completely forgot it burned down. The team says that then they will all camp together. Lucas said that she will probably wait. Alfred said that he agrees with Luke. It seems the village of Merg will become a bit livelier. Luca asked why the crew members loved living in tents so much. They replied that it was very fun. At that moment, Alfred's comrades were watching them and wondering what it was about. Luca bowed low and said that she was very sorry for the inconvenience. The peasants were surprised, and the elders smiled kindly. Alfred asked the peasants to listen. These are his friends, or rather former allies. They are reliable and regret what they have done, so he asks the peasants to forgive them. Luca said that as soon as she saw this huge magic circle, she decided to stop at any cost. The men, smiling sweetly, said that such things happen. The village head asked Luca to raise his head. Since they were friends of Alfred, they gladly welcomed guests in their village. Alfred smiled awkwardly. Lucas sighed with relief and thanked the village head. Cruz also smiled and said it was very cool. Lucas turned to her with a deadly aura. Cruz asked the girl why she was looking at him so inattentively. Luca hugged Cruz and told her to go apologize for drawing the sword. Alfred thought about the fact that he had not revealed who Luca and Cruz really were. If it became known that they were the hero and the warrior who tamed the Demon King, they would become important people. The peasants would be embarrassed, and they would not like it. The village elder turned to Alfred and asked what he would do today. Alfred thought that since his house burned down, he would spend the night in the barn with everyone. The village elder stated that he would not allow this young man and their dear guests. Alfred told him not to worry about him. They killed Mill and said they could live with them until their house was completely rebuilt. The elder said it was a good idea since Mill had a fairly spacious house. Alfred asked the girl if she was sure. Millet smiled and said she was quite sure. Then Alfred said she would take advantage of her position. At that moment, Colette was smiling and walking beside Cruz, and he asked why the girl was in such a good mood. Cruz said that she is really looking forward to spending the night at Colette's house, and the girl smiled and said that she is looking forward to it too. They enter the house. Luca asks the host to take care of them. Millet asks them to feel at home. Alfred said that they are freeloaders here, so they could ask them to do something. Millet invited Alfred and told him not to be shy and to come in. After some time, Colette hugged Femi and asked to start having fun with her. At that moment, Alfred asked Luca what happened to their doctor and why there were only two of them. Luca said that Juliana had mumps. Lucas said there was an epidemic in the capital. She also got sick while treating other people. Alfred asked the girls to send Juliana his best wishes. Luca and Cruz thanked the young man. Mill, who approached them with a tray, asked if Luca and Cruz were really Alfred's friends. Cruz agreed and said he had deceived them by disguising himself. Everyone started laughing. The boy said something and turned to Vivy, who was standing in the doorway and hiding. Alfred asked the girl why she had not joined them. Vivy said that the warrior prevented her from resurrecting Muffy. Luca apologized to the girl once again. Then Vivy shyly admitted that Alfred's house burned down because of her and asked him for forgiveness. Alfred turned to Vivy and said that there was no need to worry, because even if she had failed, he was the one who ordered the arson, so he suggested the girl return to Muffy tomorrow. Vivy was embarrassed and sat down at the table. Lucas noticed that she actually could not distinguish zombies from skeletons by their magic circle. She admits that she is guilty, but even if the 4 heavenly kings from the Demon King's army resurrected the dead, the girl would still stop them. Alfred said that Lucas was right. He thought that Lucas was a warrior, but the fact that she could read magic circles impressed him. The boy interrupts Lucas and Cruz and says that he wants to clarify something. The girls fall silent in surprise and listen to him attentively. Alfred asked if Vivy was really one of the 4 heavenly kings, and Lucas was very surprised, asking again if he really just said that. Vivy asked him how many more times he would have to repeat it. Lucas asked if he forgot how last time they beat her. Alfred thought that he really considered her some kind of impudent person. Cruz smiled and said that she also forgot, so the young man did not need to worry. Alfred felt very mixed feelings about this. According to Lucas, as soon as they set foot on the Demon King's land, they immediately captured a small fortress. It seemed that Vivy was there, but they quickly defeated her. The boy asked the girl what she was doing there, and Vivy said she was tending the land and livestock. On the Demon King's territory, the land became barren, and the army accelerated the invasion because its main goal was to rob people and take their supplies. If Vivy had not corrected the situation, the battle would have been much more difficult. Vivy said that the boy was just lucky because he defeated her first. It was simply incredible luck. Colette said that the kings are really cool. Alfred looked at the girl and said that she seemed very confident, but in reality she was a wonderful magician, although sometimes she did silly things. Then the girl smelled a very pleasant scent and said it smelled very good, and Millet at that moment said that she had finished cooking. Everyone thanked the girl. The team said it was very good that now they could try the food Millet had prepared. Cruz tried the pancake and said it was very tasty and simply fantastic. Luca asked why the girl was alone in the forest. Cruz replied that she found a strange trail and followed it, accidentally getting separated from Luca. Luca said that the girl got lost. She was just following an alleged trail of the hydra. Alfred asked her what she meant by hydra. Vivy replied that the hydra was a rather dangerous monster. The hydra is a creature with many heads and deadly poison. Its strength is similar to that of a dragon. Luca added that, in her opinion, Cruz was mistaken. She also checked the path but found no traces of the hydra. Cruz confidently said it was the hydra. Alfred thought that Cruz might be a little wrong, but her intuition never failed her. The young man told the girl that if she found it, he would help her, and Cruz asked why he was worried. Then after the meal, Millet said they could go to the hot springs. Cruz asked if there really were such springs there. Lucas said she would also like to go, and Millet added that she would take them there now. Millet then told Alfred, Vivy, and Femi that she would return soon, so they should not worry or hurry because she and Femi would stay. Cruz grabbed Alfred and said that they hadn't bathed together for a long time. Alfred replied that he didn't need that and would stay at home. Prius asked the young man if he really would not go to the hot springs because he smelled of sweat. At that moment Mill began to tremble, said that Alfred had swum with Cruz, and then asked if they had ever been together. Alfred said that if that could be called bathing, then he was a traveler, and sometimes he had to overcome shame and wash quickly. He said it was something else. They were on the road, so it was normal. Millet at that moment said she could not believe it. Vivy said that travelers were so shameless. Lucas separated Alfred and Cruz and said that they were no longer on the road and mixed swimming was unacceptable. Cruz said that everyone would be happier if they were together. Luca told Cruz to understand that it was shameful. Then the girls left, and Alfred wished them a good time. Cruz said she was very sorry that Alfred did not go with them. After staying at the hot springs, the young man was walking with Femi and said that they were simply wonderful today. He looked at the sky and realized that there would be a full moon today. After some time, the young man returns. Mill meets him and says that dinner is almost ready. Alfred thanks the girl. Alfred then enters the room where Vivy is sitting at the table drawing magical circles on paper. Lucas and Cruz are playing cards, and Colette is watching them. The girls called the young man and invited him to play cards with them. Alfred smiled sweetly and felt calm. Then they played cards and waited for the millet to cook for dinner, then waited for dinner and all together cleaned up and washed the dishes. It was already late at night. Alfred was climbing the stairs carrying the sleeping Colette to bed, and Mills said that she had already made the beds and that there were only 2 rooms. Colette turned to Femi and said that she would spend the night with her. Millet said that she and Colette would sleep on the floor so that the guests could use the bed. Alfred said he would not allow that. He was grateful that the girl allowed them to stay, but they could not use her bed. Millet said there was nothing wrong with that. Alfred said he thought it was right, then Cruz pondered. She interrupted the boys and said that she could sleep on the floor, then turned to Alfred, and the boy was surprised why the girl was asking him specifically. Cruz asks if she really cannot do that. The boy says it's not that she can't. Cruz pulls the boy along and says that then they will spend the night here. She sits on the floor and says that she hasn't slept next to Alfred for a long time, and Alfred agrees with her words. They smiled. Alfred said that during the trip they covered for each other and slept in turns. Cruz added that the floor was even more comfortable. Lucas sits next to them and says that then she is with them. In a moment Vivy came and said that it looks very fun. She told Femi that she could sleep alone. Millet said that no one would take the bed she had prepared for so long, and that as the hostess, she would decide everything for them. Eventually, the bed went to Femme, Colette, and her. The rest took all the other beds. Alfred asked if everything was okay, and if it wouldn't be cramped. Mill replied that everything was fine. They had agreed on everything. Vivy added that despite what Millet said, she would still hit her that night. Millet awkwardly said that she didn't do that. After some time, Colette and Alfred went to sleep. Colette petted Femi and said that she always slept well next to her. Then they wished each other sweet dreams. Alfred could not fall asleep and thought that Hydra had appeared here too, but everything was fine and he would protect the village. At that moment, somewhere deep in the forest, a Hydra was crawling and howling loudly. After some time, the guard's work began with opening the main gates. The young man stretched and sighed. Suddenly he and Femi heard barking. They turned around and saw little puppies. Alfred greeted them good morning. He asked the puppies where their parents were. Femi said that they had probably gone to look for breakfast. When Alfred's house was rebuilt, several wolves settled nearby. He is sure that it is because of leftover food. Vivy interrupted them and asked Alfred to help cast a spell to resurrect Muffy. Alfred agreed and said he would help. Then Luca and Cruz interrupted them and said that they were involved too. Vivy said that they had been secretly watching her all the time. Vivy asked Luca if they would really bother her again, and Luca replied no. Luca said that she had already apologized for it, but if she helps, there is no point in asking for anything in return, although they would only watch. Alfred says that first they will all have breakfast because the millet is waiting for them. He sends the girls and adds that all business will be after the meal. Alfred asks Vivy if she minds if they all go to his place. Vivy replies that if Alfred asked, she cannot refuse. After some time, he got ready and went after Vivy. Vivy said that she had drawn only 80% of the magic circle. Last time, those two interfered, and she had to destroy it. He then asked if the girl really worked there and pointed to that place. Vivy agreed and asked what the problem was, and Alfred started shouting and said that working in the middle of the village was dangerous because the villagers might get scared. Vivy said that the boy was right, then added that she finally prepared it so that Alfred could see. She wanted everyone to rejoice in Muffy's resurrection, so the girl doesn't know what the boy is thinking. Cruz approaches Vivy and tells her that everything is fine and that he understands her, then asks her not to lose heart because Luca also scolds her every day. Alfred strokes Vivy's head and says that this time she will watch over her from the very beginning, so he suggests the girl go to a more spacious place. Yes, the girl really wants to surprise everyone. Vivy is embarrassed and agrees with the boy. Then the girl waves her hands and asks the boy to stop petting her. She blushes and tells the boy to watch where he puts his hand. Vivy again asks the girls if they will really bother her, and Luca replies that they will not bother her. Then the girl goes to the field, and Alfred says he will watch from here. The girl agrees and runs. Then she returns and waves to the boy. Vivid smiles and begins to draw the magic circle, and Alfred asks if it is really that impressive. Luca asks the boy if something is wrong, and Alfred says that everything is fine and that it is simply amazing. Then Luca thinks and looks at Vivy, who is drawing a huge magic circle, and some time passes. Cruz was playing with Femi and asked her to bring the ball. Vivy was already sweating, so she told Alfred to check her magic circle, and the young man, who was already sitting on the ground, agreed. The boy said that he liked Vivy's idea and that he would never have thought of it himself. Vivy started laughing. Alfred thought about how Vivy was not in a hurry while drawing this complex magic circle. He believed that she was much better than him at this. His gravity magic will hold the bones together. Now all preparations are complete. Vivy asked everyone to step back until she finishes. Vivy placed her hands on her magic seal and closed her eyes. Suddenly, the skeleton Muffy began to assemble while Vivy was reciting the spell. Luca and Cruz covered their faces with their hands to protect themselves from the strong wind and were very surprised by what was happening. Alfred was also surprised. He thought that Muffy had no vocal cords. She produced sounds with her spiritual energy, and it was extraordinary. He shouted to Vivy that it worked. Vivy cried and called Muffy. The girl ran straight to Muffy, and Alfred shouted at her to stop and not go there. Vivy shouted that she did not know how to fix it. Vivy apologized to Muffy for offending her. Vivy added that she was very sorry. She yells at Muffy that if he cannot forgive her, he can take revenge right now. Vivy continued to look at Muffy. Luca began to draw his sword, and Alfred began to activate his magic. The young man thought that even if Vivy agreed to it, he could not allow her to die before his eyes. Suddenly, Muffy rubbed her nose against Vivy's face. The girl asked if she really forgave her, and Muffy purred pleasantly. Vivy burst into tears of joy, but then wiped her tears. Alfred noticed that it seemed Muffy had forgiven Vivy. However, he was the one who killed her in the first place. Muffy turned back to the boy and opened her mouth. Cruz and Luca were very surprised when the boy's body disappeared into her skull. The girls ran up to Alfred and asked if he was okay. Alfred smiled and said that Muffy had only bitten him a little. The boy strokes Muffy and thanks her for coming back to them, and Alfred, Vivy, and Femi happily began to pet her. After some time, returning to the village, the women asked if the rumors were true and if it was a giant bull skeleton. Alfred apologized for the performance and said that the skeleton was not dangerous, so there was no need to worry. The woman said she had never seen a skeleton move, so necromancy seemed incredible to her. They approach the fence, and Vivy says that this is now Muffy's new home, and she wants Muffy to stay here. Suddenly, Muffy's legs gave way. Vivy told Muffy not to worry because she would always be nearby. As long as Muffy stays close, everything will be fine. Then the puppies appeared. Alfred asked why they were still here, and Fem said that it was very strange. Cruz asked what skeletons usually eat. Alfred replied that since they have no digestive system, they only need a little spiritual energy. Vivy said that it was true because their bodies are created by magic and they live off it. Cruz said she understood, then asked if it was really hard for Vivy because Muffy was big. Vivy said that it was a very difficult matter. She was not the only one supplying spiritual energy to Muffy's body. Cruz said she understood. Suddenly a puppy began to howl. Alfred asks friend what happened. The she-wolf replies that the wolves have found the hydra. Alfred smiled and said that the hydra had finally appeared. Cruz immediately drew her sword, and Alfred thought that he had no choice but to fight. Cruz smiled and said that this time she would not let the trail go and would see the matter through to the end, and Alfred panicked and asked her to calm down a bit, and Cruz agreed. Alfred addressed Fem, but the she-wolf replied that she already knew, after which Fem transformed into her true form and said that her job was to protect the forest. Alfred turned to Vivy and told her to stay here in case of an attack on the village. Vivy agreed and said that she and Muffy would keep order here. Alfred mounts Fem, calls Luca and Cruz, and asks the girls if they are ready. Luca and Cruz agree, and they set off. After some time, having gone deeper into the forest, Fem howled and began to listen to those who responded to her. The she-wolf pointed Alfred in the right direction and ran there. Suddenly, Alfred saw a huge hydra. Lucas said that the hydra was even bigger than she thought. Alfred told the girls to be careful because the hydra was poisonous. Suddenly, the teams rushed, shouting, straight at the hydra. Alfred ordered the girl to stop and not to charge headlong into the attack. Although Cruz is a brave warrior, sometimes she is too reckless, but still, it is their duty to support her. The boy used magic and created a huge beam of light right above the hydra. The hydra covered its eyes, and its heads were cut off by the crew's sword. The hydra used some liquid and poured it right on Cruz. The girl tried to wipe the liquid off and said that it had a terrible smell. Suddenly, someone grabbed the girl by the collar and pushed her aside. Cruz asked Luca what she was doing, but at that moment, the hydra's head rushed past Cruz. Luca cut off the head, said that she was warned about the poison, and then asked if she was really tired of life. Suddenly, the girls were surprised, because the hydra's heads grew back again, and Luca started cutting them off again, saying that this hydra was behaving strangely. Alfred, looking at them, thought that Lucas's words were true. Usually, hydras regenerate in 3 days. This regeneration is too fast, so this is definitely abnormal. Suddenly, Alfred turned to Luca and Cruz and shouted to the girls to continue cutting off her heads, because he had an idea. He said he would try to burn her with his fire magic, so they needed to hold on until then. Cruz said they understood. Luca told Alfred to move faster because she wouldn't last any longer. The team said the fun was starting. She was interrupted by Luca, who said she wouldn't listen to someone covered in poison. At that time, Alfred ordered Fem to go around the hydra, after which she confirmed the order and began to carry it out. Alfred stretched out his hand and attacked the hydra with a fiery spear. The teams in Luca were surprised that it worked. Cruz shone and told Alfred that it was wonderful, but Luca advised her not to relax. Cruz agreed and added that now they would definitely win because she couldn't hold back. Luca asked Alfred to cover her back. Alfred smiled and agreed, then said that they needed to finish off these heads. At that moment, Fem was watching Alfred and realized what his team was capable of. The hydra was destroyed, and everyone sighed with relief. Fem realized that Alfred's group was really very strong. Alfred was glad that everything worked out and they succeeded. Suddenly, Cruz smelled a pleasant scent, and Luca wondered if she was the only one who smelled fried fish, but it seemed it was fried hydra. Cruz asked if it was true. Lucas shouted that it could not be eaten. Suddenly, they heard someone barking. Then Alfred saw adult wolves, said that they also worked well, and thanked the wolves for finding the hydra because it made their job easier. The boy thanks Femi, and she gets offended and pouts. He sees the wolves drooling and asks them if they really want to eat the hydra. Cruz said that she had not tried hydra yet, but Lucas shouted for the wolves to eat the hydra. Femi asks Alfred if they can eat the hydra. Alfred agrees and says he does not mind. Alfred says that it is not very harmful. Luca asks in surprise if Alfred ever tried the hydra. Alfred said that it happened once when he was younger, supposedly for scientific purposes. He just wanted to. Cruz told Luca that it was okay. Pruss said that it looked very tasty and crispy. Alfred said that he warned the girl that it was very bland. Luca hears the wolves howling and Cruz shouts that they will share. Then Cruz suggests letting Alfred slaughter her. Luca was silent for a moment, then said that in that case she would return first. Alfred was surprised. After some time the hydra was fried, the wolves began to eat, and the Cruz followed them. Alfred thought that when the Cruz and others ate such meat, it looked tasty. After dinner, they gathered the trophies and went home, and Luca said that she was lucky to get valuable ingredients, so it was a great success. Luca asked Alfred if they could go to the hot spring when they returned to the village. Alfred said it was a good idea. Suddenly, Cruz clenched in pain and said she was hurting. Luca inquired about the girl's condition. Cruz said she had a stomach ache. Alfred asked if Cruz was really sick, because strong warriors like her rarely get sick. Lucas said it was all because of the hydra. She asked the girl if she could walk. Cruz replied that she could, but not so fast. Alfred grabbed Cruz by the shoulder and told the girl not to tire herself, and she would go with them. Bruce said she was fine and the stomach pain would not harm her. Alfred said he thought she was about to faint. Alfred asked Femme if she could go with Cruz, because the she-wolf was the queen of wolves. Alfred told the girls to hurry and asked Cruz to hold on tight. Then they went home. Cruz thanked Alfred. The young man at that moment thought that hydramit was tasty but not poisonous, because he was convinced of this from his own experience. So he realized that something was wrong here. They come to Mill's house and tell the girl that Cruz has a stomach ache. Mill says it is serious and she will make the bed now. After some time, Cruz is put to bed. The girl apologizes to Mill for disturbing her. Colette asks Cruz if she is okay. Cruz thanks her for the work. Mill asks the girl what unusual food she ate. Luca said directly that she ate hydra meat. The girl wanted to stop Luca, but she said not to try to hide her stupidity. Cruz said that Femme ate too. Alfred said that he considered Femme normal because she was a she-wolf. Mill said that according to Alfred, hydra meat is not poisonous because during battle it releases all its toxins. Perhaps remnants of these toxins were in the meat she ate. Millet said that she would prepare medicine for stomach problems and just in case give an antidote. If the young man wants, she can prepare them for him, but he will have to wait. After some time, Mill returned with the medicine. Alfred said that Mill is a true master. Mill thanked the young man. Cruz drank the potion and said that it was terrible and smelled bad. Millet said that it was medicine. Cruz continued to drink it, but it was too bitter. Then Lucas approached Cruz and asked how much more she would drink. Then Lucas pinched Cruz's nose and poured the medicine into her open mouth. Alfred told Cruz that she did well. Lucas jokingly said that it would distract her from hydramit. Suddenly, Cruz said that it seems the medicine is working. Lucas replied that it is simply impossible. Then she said that it doesn't matter because she needs to lie down and rest. She also said that she would stay with her for a while. Cruz lay back, but after a second jumped up and said that she feels better, and Lucas said that she cannot feel better so quickly, so she must lie down. Cruz jumps up again and says that she feels better and is sure of it. After 10 minutes, Alfred thinks that it was a big mistake to consider Cruz a normal person. Mills said that it was a great relief to see Cruz, Coletta, and Femme happily playing. It was all thanks to Alfred. Then Millet stretches, smiles, and says that the country air today is so refreshing. The appearance and smile of Alfred seemed to say that Millet was right. At that moment, Colette, Cruz, and Femme were playing on the grass in the sun. At that moment, deep in the forest, a small rabbit found the severed head of the hydra and ran up to it. Then he drank some strange liquid, flowing directly from the hydra's mouth. Suddenly, the rabbit felt a sharp pain and fell to the ground. After some time, Vivy looked after Muffy, and then asked Alfred if everything was all right, because they hurriedly returned home. Alfred agreed and said that Cruz was in critical condition, so she was taken to Millet. Cruz loudly said that she was already completely healthy. Alfred said that they had gotten rid of the hydra, so now everyone was safe, and Vivy added that it was good and that it was also her merit. The girls smiled and said that only thanks to the village guardians Vivy and Muffy could they fight peacefully. Alfred patted Vivy on the head, said that she was definitely the best guardian, and then thanked her for her hard work. Vivy said that Muffy also wanted to be patted. Colette and Cruz rushed to Muffy and loudly said that they loved her very much. Colette patted Muffy and said that she was very smooth. Alfred said that it was true. Cruz also said that Muffy was very cute. Suddenly, Cruz's hands began to glow. Alfred asked the girl what that light was. Cruz did not understand what he was talking about because she was just petting Muffy. Vivy got scared and told Cruz to stop because Cruz was doing something bad. Luca stopped Vivy and told her to stop because Cruz was not doing anything bad. Vivy asked Luca what was happening here. Luca replied that it might be the consecration of the brave. Suddenly, a huge stream of light appeared. The whole village was flooded with rays of light. Suddenly, Vivy opened her eyes and was very surprised by what she saw. Muffy had taken on flesh. Vivy asked what it means, and if it is really Muffy, and Cruz said that Muffy has become very good. Alfred said that consecration means a ritual during which a priest endows armor with sacred power. Luke agreed with the young man's assumption. Alfred asked if this was such an effective technique. Luca said she had read about it in taverns. This is not a great power of the priests. It is more like a traditional ritual. Alfred said that the teams would only be able to raise lower ghosts. Cruz is special and has the power of a hero, which makes the technique many times stronger, turning it into the power of a god. The teams laughed awkwardly. Alfred asked the girl what she had done. Vivy asked what had happened to Muffy. Lucas said it was like some kind of consecration of the living dead, meaning Muffy became a holy bull, and then she realized and said that Muffy definitely became the holy Muffy. Cruz says she is sure that a holy aura comes from Muffy. Vivy says she feels it too. Cruz adds that it's still cool. Luca agrees, and Colette shouts that she loves Muffy. Suddenly the wolf cub howled. Alfred said that for some reason the wolf cub seemed happy. Alfred asked Femi something, but she was not there. Alfred asked Colette if she had seen Femi, and she replied that she had not seen Femi since they were there. Alfred said that Femi knew how to hide well, but he felt that something was wrong. Then he turned back to the noise of the fight and asked Femi where she had gone. Suddenly Femi came out of the forest with a wolf in her teeth and told Alfred that she needed his help. Alfred asked Femi if she was okay. Femi said that the wolf was deep in the forest and had the same symptoms as the teams. Alfred said that if the poison really activated with a delay, then he decided that they would talk later, and he would bring the wolves here for Millet to examine them. I will pronounce them one by one to bring Millet here. The girl hurriedly runs away and shouts that she will bring it now. Vivy shouts that she will create a magical circle of restoration. Femi said that she actually did not eat the hydra meat. Alfred asked why, and she explained that her minions approached the hydra's body and were very hungry, so she did not eat. Then they come to the place, and Alfred sees many wolves lying on the ground. Learning that Cruz was in danger, he completely forgot about the wolves. The young man apologizes. Lucas said that he can apologize later, but now they need to deliver the wolves to the village. Alfred said that they will take care of them. Cruz pulls 2 wolves at once and says that he can handle the job. Lucas says that she is counting on the girl. Alfred said that Femi just has to catch him and run. It will take a few minutes because he uses his magic. The young man lifts all the wolves and says that he will gather them all at once. No one can easily handle gravity magic. Alfred was riding on Femi and carrying many wolves with his magic. The team smiled and said that this was expected from Alfred. They were already close to the village. Millet, Colette, and Vivy called everyone here. Vivy said she had drawn a magic circle to ease their pain, but it was unlikely to help. Vivy said her magic was insufficient. According to Femi, their symptoms were stomach pain, vomiting, and weakness. Millet examined the wolves and said she understood and that these symptoms were very similar to Cruz's. She added that she would prepare medicine and asked to wait a little. Alfred thanked the girl. Femi said she had done something wrong. It was also related to her confidence and pride because she is the king of magical wolves. Alfred told Femi's not to think about it because it was not only her fault. Luca examines the wolf and wonders why the boy does not find it a bit strange. Alfred thinks about it too. Cruz called Luca, and the girl said that Alfred said that he had eaten hydra meat before, meaning its meat is not toxic, and it is not about poison, and Cruz agreed with her. Luca asked Cruz if the girl forgot that she was poisoned. Cruz smiled and said she forgot. Later, Luca learned that it was unlikely that the poison was on the meat and caused the illness. If it is a wolf with a good sense of smell, he will notice it before eating. Femi says that goes without saying. Lucas says that this hydra was abnormal from the very beginning. It is impossible to grow a head immediately. She had never heard of such a thing. Luca asks Alfred to give her some hydrabil. Alfred agrees and hands her a jar of hydrabil. Lucas says that at first glance it is quite large. Cruz says that it gives off a very unpleasant aura. Alfred asks the girl what she means. Cruz replies that there is a strange energy around her and she does not like it, and Alfred thinks that she sometimes scares him. Luca asks permission to take him to the royal laboratory so that she can check. Does Alfred agree with the girl? Alfred says that Luca studies magical creatures, so she seems brilliant. Mill interrupts them and apologizes to the boys for making them wait, and says that the potion is a bit bitter, but they should drink it for their health. The medicine is then poured into bowls and given to the wolves. Femi says that the wolves look much better. Lucas says that she drank all the medicine herself, and Cruz did not. Cruz says that is not true. Millet said that she thinks all the wolves will feel much better tomorrow. Alfred agrees with the girl. Femibos and Ceci appreciate it. Millet refuses. Alfred then says that tonight he will take care of the wolves together with Femi. Suddenly Muffy starts moving, and the boy says that Muffy will also look after them. Lucas says that she will study the bile and try to find out what is happening, and Alfred says he will leave it to the boy. Alfred then said that he is glad everyone went to sleep peacefully. Maybe Muffy had some healing aura. Alfred then notices that Femi is licking the wolves in turn and is very concerned about them. Then Alfred extinguishes the candle in the lamp and thinks that Femi is the best king, so everything will be fine, and everyone falls asleep. The next morning the wolf pups wake Alfred. The young man says that everything seems to be fine. He wishes all the wolves good morning. He looks into the distance, sees the adult wolves, and says that he is very glad that everyone is healthy. Femi approaches Alfred and thanks him for helping to save her pack. She is very sorry that only Femi cannot help. Alfred tells her not to think that everything is over, so he suggests going to have breakfast and then together uncovering the mystery of Hydra. He smiles and says that they will solve this problem together with Fem. Fem says that this is her chance to show that she is useful too. She calls the young man to go with him so that he will allow her to repay the debt. After some time, Femi, Alfred, Vivy, Cruz, and Luca arrived at the place where they killed the Hydra yesterday. Lucas said that they would probably find the secret of the immortal Hydra here. Vivy said that she no longer feels magic. Alfred said it was strange. He, of course, stabbed him, burned him, and buried him, but now there were no traces left. It was very strange. Femi said that everything was a bit confusing. Alfred asked Femi if she really understood anything. The she-wolf said she would try to find something. Vivy looked around and suddenly noticed something on the ground. She called Alfred and asked him to look at the place she had found. The girl swept her foot across the ground and said that a magical circle was hidden there. She added that it was huge and made the monster very large. Alfred said that this was exactly what they expected from Vivy. Vivy slyly laughed, but they were interrupted by Cruz's voice, who called Alfred and said that she had found something. Alfred ran to Cruz. The girl said there was a large group of monsters there, and it was very serious. Then they ran there and were very surprised. Alfred could not understand what it was because there was a whole pack of monsters there. Lucas said they were 3 times bigger than the Hydra, so it was impossible to look at them. If even one of them got into the city, it would be destroyed. Femi said that they cannot allow them to leave the forest. Cruz grabbed her sword and said that then they will do it. Alfred believed that the Hydra fled from these monsters, and he did not understand why someone enlarged them and where they came from. Cruz asked Alfred for permission to attack. The young man agreed and told the girl not to overexert herself because he would cover her, and Cruz agreed. Suddenly Cruz was attacked. A wizard appeared who said that the girl dodged very skillfully. He was thinking about how to lure her, but the girl came herself and saved him a lot of effort. Alfred asked the stranger who he was and what he wanted from them. The man said that he was not interested in people. He is interested in the girl who is one of the heavenly kings, and points to Vivy. The boy says that she asked for the plan to restore the demon king's army, so she is a traitor. The man takes off his hood and says that he is one of the 12 heavens, and his name is Tease, the purifier of impurity. Vivy got scared and said that she does not know him. The girl asked Alfred if he knew him, and the boy replied that he did not know such a person. Tease shouted and accused Vivy of mocking him. The young man shouted that Vivy was the weakest of the 4 heavenly kings, and that she ruined the dragon invasion plan, and he could not forgive her for that. Alfred realized that this boy created dragons using dark magic, and said that even if it is true, they need to find out if the boy will do something, or if the demons just like to talk. The young man said that it seems he likes to talk, but it did not matter because they will all die here. Then he called his monsters. He orders him to kill everyone. Suddenly something disperses the monsters, and Tease is very surprised. Suddenly Cruz appears behind him. Tis smiles and tells the girl not to do that. Cruz is very surprised. Suddenly a monster in the form of a huge serpent used its sharp vision and blinded the Cruz because it was too bright. Tis said it was beautiful because no one could escape the petrifying gaze of the basilisks. Cruz said it was bright. The girl tears off part of the serpent and says she is fine because she does not succumb to such things. Tis is very surprised and asks why it did not work. Then Lucas says it's time to finish. The basilisk tries to use its petrifying gaze, but it doesn't work. Luca ends up behind the monster. She jumps and slashes the monster. At that moment, Alfred uses his magic, and with an explosion tears apart the body of the huge basilisk. At that moment, the huge monster runs straight at Alfred, but Femi stands between them and tears it apart with her sharp claws. Alfred again stretches out his hand and burns the monster. Tis stands very surprised. He looks at his killed monsters. Tis asks the guy and says that they are like that. Alfred says it doesn't matter. They are just passing by, S-rank adventurers. Tis takes his head in his hands and starts laughing. Then he says he thought to do it quickly, but people interfered. At that moment, Cruz, calling Alfred, says that the monster's wounds are starting to heal. Suddenly, the hydra began to regenerate. Tis laughs and says that people are lucky because these monsters regenerate quickly. They are invulnerable zombie soldiers who will never fall. They can play as much as they want, but they will still die. Alfred thinks he understood something. The circle and the wolves ate the hydra's flesh and got stomach pains. The reason was that he was turning into a zombie, and although these monsters are dead, they are still connected to this place and obey one of the 12 heavens. Luca tells Alpha that they can fight forever, but her strength and magical energy will eventually run out. At that moment, Femi told Alfred that she could kill the Steeman. Alfred told the wolf that they could wait. Alfred says that they will kill only zombies because they need the demon alive. He will stand trial in the capital. Femi asked Alfred what they would do. Alfred tells the wolf to run to the center of all monsters. Alfred calls Tis and thanks him for telling him something, and Tis looks at Alfred, who says that he is actually a little angry with him. However, he believes that they will be able to defeat this monster. At that moment, Cruz shouted and asked Mr. Alfred what to do. Alfred says he will use his magic to impress, so he calls Luca and Cruz to help. Lucas said that she agreed, but it was very difficult. Alfred ordered the girls to cut off the heads. Cruz said it was easy. Tess was surprised, so Alfred ordered the girls to continue cutting off the heads. They quietly said that they had stopped. It was in vain. At that moment, the young man stretched out his hand and called the Ice Queen, who reigned in the heavens and ruled the void. He asked her to open the gates of emptiness to the mystery of the absolute world. He told heaven and darkness that he would freeze the unclean spirits of this world with a heavenly hammer. The boy's name is Alfred Lent. Then a huge pillar of ice appeared before Alfred. All the monsters froze. Tiss's legs also froze, so the boy said he couldn't move. Suddenly Alfred rides up to him and tells Tiss that he has been caught, and Tiss falls to the ground, saying the guy is joking and doubts whether he is really an S-rank adventurer. Such magical power could only belong to a true monster. Tiss says he should have guessed. Vivy is the weakest of the 4 heavenly kings and could not have defeated the dragons, so they were defeated by a young man. Alfred said he was not alone. Then he ties up Tiss, but the boy says there is only one way out. He grins and says that the merchants must be destroyed. Alfred is very surprised and immediately calls Vivy. At that moment, a huge hydra runs through the forest. Vivy smiles and says she was waiting for it. The huge hydra attacks the girl, but Vivy was sitting next to a magical seal, which she immediately attacked. Plants immediately grew from the magical seal and bound the hydra. Vivy said it would never be able to break these bonds. Instantly, these plants tore the hydra into pieces. Alfred turned to the young man and asked if he had anything else to say. The boy was sitting in the field where the monsters he created were burned and frozen. Alfred told Vivy that she had created a large circle. Vivy said that the fight was left to Alfred and the others, but just in case, she created a magical circle that completely stopped the monster's movements. Alfred patted the girl on the head and said he understood and that it was a good decision. Vivy asked the boy to stop because she felt uncomfortable. Then Alfred smiles and says that the matter is settled and they can return. At that moment, Femi is carrying teas in her teeth. While Femi was holding the demon in her mouth, Alfred told Cruz that she has a stomach ache because she ate zombies. Cruz asked if she shouldn't eat it and why it is bad. Lucas said that they need to be completely deprived of freedom to become zombies. Therefore, she applies various harmful magic to her body. This time the zombies were very large and repeatedly resurrected due to various curses, so this meat cannot be eaten. The team said it was scary. Luca added that he would tell her one more thing. There are parasites that can turn a person into a zombie, but there is magic that will rid the girl of them, and the team will no longer have stomach pain. Then Cruz talks about parasites and zombies. Alfred thinks that millet medicine might help, so Cruz needs to find out about it. The young man talks about millet, but before he can finish, Cruz suddenly breaks free and runs to Millet. At that time, Millet was treating wolves when suddenly Cruz ran in and said she was not in pain and also reminded her about the insects. Millet asked Cruz to calm down. Millet added that everything is fine and she has treatment. Cruz said that she will become a zombie and might die. Then Millet saw the guys and greeted them. Alfred said that someone definitely will no longer eat strange things. Cruz agreed with the guys. Millet approached Alfred, thanked him for the work, then asked if they were finished. Alfred pointed to Tis and told the girl that they were finished. Cruz and Luca petted the wolves and noticed that they were also in a good mood. Luca said that it was because of Millet's medicine and the power of the sacred beast Muffy. Vivy did not understand what the girl was talking about. Luca replied that sometimes the spirit of the beast can lift a curse, and Vivy was surprised, looking at Muffy, who was sitting near the wolves and shining. Vivy cried with joy and ran straight to Muffy to hug her. Alfred happily watched the girls. Then he became serious and looked at Tis. The young man removed the bandage from his mouth and said that he and his friends had summoned zombie dragons in the western mountains, but they failed. However, the young man asks that this time they take on the hydra and the basilisk. He asks if the demon really thinks that with his help, the royal army can be resurrected. Tis smiled and said that the demon king will definitely be resurrected, and meanwhile people must live in fear. Alfred mockingly said that the demon king will not be resurrected. At that moment, he realized that the boy did not want to talk. Alfred says that the technique of turning into zombies is imperfect, and one hydra turned out to be a big failure, and parasites help the young man create them, meaning he does not have the main power. Then Alfred called Vivy. The girl ran up to him. Alfred asked if there was a zombie expert in the Demon King's army. Vivy replied that she did not think so, because the Demon King forbade the sale of zombies. However, she was defeated by Alfred and other adventurers, so she left the front early and does not know what happened next. Tis said that the Demon Lord allowed zombies to use magic, so Vivy, one of the 4 heavenly kings, is very foolish. Alfred snapped his fingers and called Fem. Fem grabbed Tis by the teeth and began shaking him. In the end, they could not get anything more from him and sent him to the capital. After some time, Mill prepared dinner. Lucas said they needed to talk a little. They decided to leave the village the next morning. Tisma stood before the court, and she is glad that she met such kind people in this village. Millet rushed into Lucas's arms and began to cry. He told the girl that she would be lonely. Luca also cried and begged her not to do this. Cruz and Colette began to wriggle on the floor and said they did not want to go. Alfred thought they were like children. Luca told Cruz that she had a lot of work in the capital. Cruz agreed with Luca. Alfred said that Cruz could come to them at any time. The girl asked if that was really so. Cruz agreed. Lucas said that they would have to say goodbye to Millet's wonderful food, so they wanted to eat well today. Then a pleasant evening came. Everyone enjoyed delicious food and had a good time. Alfred suddenly noticed that people from Vivian's team were whispering something. The next morning they began to say goodbye, and the boy wished the girl a safe journey home. The girls thanked everyone, and Luke asked Alfred to take care of himself. Alfred agreed and said that his stay here was a secret. Then they leave. Alfred tells the girls that it's time to work. Millet shouts that she will go help the old woman, and Vivy will go feed the cows. Alfred says he will get to his work. He sits on a chair and says he will take care of the girls, so he asks them to try hard today. The girls ask the young man to take care of his knee and are counting on Alfred. Before the meeting of Luca and Cruz with Alfred, it became known that zombie dragons created by the Dark Mage could attack the capital, so S-rank adventurers Cruz and Luca hurried to prevent this. Luca called Cruz, but the girl said they needed to take a break, and Luca replied that it was a pity she didn't destroy the Dark Mage's laboratory, so she was one step late and had to decide to finish everything at once. Suddenly, Luca was surprised because the ghosts of the zombie dragons disappeared. He said it was strange, as if someone suddenly destroyed them. Cruz did not believe they were destroyed and said she didn't think it was that simple. Suddenly, Cruz felt something and said it was a sign of trouble, and Luca asked if it could be zombie dragons. Cruz replied that it was not and that it could be a hydra, and Luca was surprised and asked where it came from. Luca ran after Cruz and shouted that she couldn't do everything alone. Cruz ran very far, and Luca shouted that she was going to the village of Merg. After some time, Luca got tired. She did not know that Cruz could run faster than a horse. It was not worth comparing her physical abilities and feelings with a heavenly gift. Then Luca realized she did not know where to go. She found the entrance to the village and wondered if the people here were kind. Suddenly, the village head approached her and asked if she was a traveler. The girl replied that she was a traveler. Then the elder asked if she really came here alone. The village head said that the girl was so beautiful, in such a light dress, and in such a remote place. Someone was surprised and thought it was a bit suspicious. She smiled and said they had parted ways, and she came here for supplies. The girl was about to show the village elder her ID. but suddenly she felt something and shouted that she would step away for a minute. Luca felt a sudden increase in magical power and suspected that it was not zombie dragons. Luca saw a huge skeleton. It was very big. Maybe it was a new type of monster. Luca shouted to Vivy and asked what she was doing there. Vivy replied for Luca to be quiet. She would not forgive the girl if she interfered with the resurrection of Muffy. Luca was surprised that she was creating the undead. Suddenly, Luca said that Vivy was one of the 4 heavenly kings. Vivy was surprised that the girl knew her name. Luca added that she had not forgotten her face. Vivy smiled and said that even in such a place she was recognized, then ordered the girl to kneel before her. Luca did not listen and ran straight to the huge skeleton. Vivy asked what Luca was doing, and she destroyed her magic circle. Luca thought that the zombie dragons were created by a demon, so someone was trying to revive the Demon King's army. Luca says that she will destroy evil without hesitation. Vivy shouts that the girl herself is evil. She activates magic and orders her to disappear. Luca realizes these are fireballs, but they will never reach her. One ball hit the girl's knee, and she sat down on the ground. Vivy said that the girl was still on her knees. Suddenly a scream rang out about what had happened, and the girls turned around and saw that Alfred's house was on fire. In the end, Luca and Vivy regretted it. Mill intervened and said that she thought they understood everything. Alfred said that it was good that it happened that way. The girls realized that Millet was very kind. In the village of Merg, it became quieter than usual when Luca and Cruz left, again leaving the village guard without work. Alfred tells himself not to worry that the girls might come back. Then he thinks they annoyed him, but sometimes seeing them is not so bad. His thoughts were interrupted by Vivy, who said that Alfred had been yawning for a long time. Alfred agreed. Vivy smiled and said there was nothing to be done because defending the village was quite boring. The boy agreed. But he thinks that Femi and Muffy are here. The village defense is already quite strong. Soon he will not be needed here at all. In such a short time, they managed to try to revive the demon army near the village with the help of dragons, hydras, and basilisks. It is frightening that the peasants do not know about this. He must show the village that he is truly useful. He noticed Vivy and asked the girl what was happening there and what she was looking at. Vivy told about the field. The young man does not understand what the girl is talking about. Vivy says that the land in the village is spoiled. Alfred looks at the plants and agrees with the girl that they are not very fruitful. The young man asked the girl if she really understands what is happening just by looking at them. Vivy agreed and said that it was because the magical ore had seeped into the hot springs, and Alfred asked if it was harmful that the ore mixed with the soil in the fields. Vivy agrees and says that the poverty of the land of the demon lord also comes from a demon or from the soil composition. Alfred is glad and says he heard that Vivy is engaged in land reclamation. Vivy agrees. Alfred smiles and says that this is expected from the 4 heavenly kings, so he counts on her. Vivy is shy. Alfred thinks about farming and says he has no personal experience, so Vivy will come in handy here. The girl takes his hand and agrees. Vivy says she will cleanse this land. The boy asks what she is talking about. Alfred asks why Vivy suddenly said that he was bored working as a guard. Alfred says that it's true. Vivy says that it is her responsibility to improve the fields. She says that with their own hands they will make the richest farm and it will be very fun. The young man thinks that Vivy looks inspired. Alfred agrees and says that they will clean everything here. He will be happy to eat tasty vegetables and the residents will feel better. Alfred says that first of all, they need permission from the village elder. Vivy runs and says that she will get it herself. The boy turned to Femi and asked if they could cut down some forest, and Femi barked affirmatively, and then the village head gave Vivy his consent. After some time, Vivy briefly says that they will clear this area and use magical circles to purify the land. They will easily clean everything here. Alfred says that Mill and others will help. Mill says that it looks funny, and the mayor also supports this. The girl adds that it is very good that they decided to support the villagers in agriculture. Femi says that she, as the king of magical wolves, will help them dig holes for vegetables. Alfred thinks that it looks like the wolf wants to dig a hole. He gives the girl permission. Vivy was silent for a moment, then said that Muffy should also join them. Alfred said that Muffy is too big to work with them. Vivy says that Muffy is a spirit beast and is sure that she can shrink. If Femi can go, then Muffy can too. Femi begins to growl. Vivy hides behind Alfred and tells Femi not to approach her. Then Muffy approaches them. The boy asks her if Muffy can become smaller. Muffy makes a sound. Alfred is surprised that she responded. Alfred asked Vivy if she understood her. Vivy said that Muffy said he can become smaller. Femi replies that Muffy said he wants the girl to touch him, and Muffy does not understand human language. Alfred says there is nothing to be done, and they will take Muffy another time. Muffy transformed into a spirit beast, and maybe later Vivy will figure out how to shrink her. Mill suggested to the boys to do everything possible for Muffy. Vivy strokes Muffy and says she is very sorry, but Muffy has to take care of them from here. Then Vivy approaches Alfred and Melee and suggests they start working. Alfred agrees, but first they need to turn everything off. Vivy agrees. He asks the girl to leave it to him because he will handle it quickly. Vivy shouted to the young man not to rush. She said that deforestation is a delicate process, and Alfred should not overdo it. The boy apologized to the girl, and Millet advised them to act gradually. Millet said she would help. Vivy said they would take a break if they got tired. Alfred does not understand what the girls are talking about. He asks if the girls really consider him old, so there is no need to worry so much because she is not a novice and can handle it herself. Mill says that is not true. She takes his hand and says she is worried about the boy's knee. Alfred is very surprised. He did not think that Millet was so concerned about her body. He appreciates it, but it makes him uncomfortable. Vivy shows the boy the place, asks him to try cutting down trees here, and asks if he can handle it. Vivy says that then the boy can start. Alfred thinks that a little magical power will be enough. Then he saws down a tree. Suddenly the tree began to fall right on the girls. Alfred managed to grab Millet and asked the girl if she was okay. Millet thanked the boy and said that she was fine. Alfred thought that because of this his knee hurt a little, so it was a bit uncomfortable. Then Vivy shouted and said that she thought something like this could happen, and asked the boy to be careful. Alfred thought that she was not very knowledgeable about farming, but the first step had already been taken.